Welcome to the Unstoppable Recording Machine Podcast. And now your host, EYAL Levy.
Welcome to the URM Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. It's crazy to think that we're now on our 5th year, but it's true. And it's only because of you, the listeners. And if you'd like to see us stick around for another 5 years, there are a few simple things that you can do that would really help us out. And I would be endlessly appreciative. Number 1, share our episodes with your friends. If you get something out of these episodes, I'm sure they will too. So please share us with your friends. Number 2, post our episodes on your Facebook and Instagram and tag me and our guests too. My Instagram is at EYAL Audio. And let me just let you know that we love seeing ourselves tagged in these posts. Who knows, we might even respond. And number 3, leave us reviews and 5 stars, please, anywhere you can. We especially love iTunes reviews. Once again, I want to thank you all for the years and years of loyalty. I just want you to know that we will never, ever charge you for this podcast, and I will always work as hard as possible to improve the episodes in every single way possible. All I ask in return is a share, post, and a tag. Now let's get on with it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the URM Podcast. I'm going to keep this intro short because it's a long episode, but my guest today is Dan Sugarman, who plays guitar for Ice Nine Kills. He's also a very established guitar educator, as well as a solo artist, and he was in that band as Blood Runs Black. He's done a ton of shit. Anyways, I introduce you to Dan Sugarman. Hi, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing, Al?
Good. Welcome to the URM Podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here, dude. I've been a huge fan of what you guys have been doing for what feels like forever. How long have you guys been a thing at this point? It's been a few years. It's been more than a few years.
Yeah, it's been more than a few years. It's actually, well, do you count when I was doing URM stuff before it became URM?
That's what I was about to say. I was literally about to mention stumbling on this whole. I actually reached out to you on Instagram years ago. I was looking to see if the message was still there, but somehow it vanished. But I remember seeing that online. I forget where you announced it. It might have been through Metal Injection. Is that where you first announced that?
The boot camps, right?
Yeah, man. And
yeah, that was 2014.
Before that, I was a huge fan of your articles on Metal Sucks, not Metal Injection. Metal
Sucks.
Yeah, man. So I've been following what you've been doing for
you
for
go
quite
back.
a while. Oh yeah, dude. I'm a weirdo. I also love Doth, so I'm gonna just back off the fanboying now.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Couldn't you pick a better band?
I tried, man.
So, I mean, I want to congratulate you, by the way, for how well everything is going. I mean, it's pretty damn cool because I've been friends with Maori for a really long time, and it's good to see. Him scoring some big ass wins, and it's good to see a band that actually worked for it for a really long time prospering.
Yeah, man, it's really incredible to see the turn of events that's happened for this band. And I have to say this too, as like an outsider, man. I've been in the band for like a year and a half at this point. It's very, very interesting. So like for me, I joined the band right after Silver Scream came out. The guitar player I replaced had already distanced himself, and my job was to sort of come in and like fill that role. But fact of the matter is, man, is that the groundwork had been done before me, and I'm so lucky and blessed to be in a band that's done the same amount of work that I would have done if it were my band.
Maybe that's why it worked out for you guys.
Absolutely. You don't get to be in the room with these people, I guess, if you're not having done the work to qualify yourself. So I feel like I did, like we both know the tour grind in a van, 15-seater, living off of Chipotle and McDonald's and shit. That was the life for me for quite a while. So I'm really, I don't want to use the word lucky, honored, blessed, but all those frickin' words to have the opportunity to be in a band like this because the team is fucking on it, dude.
Did you feel ever, like before you got in the band, that your ambition kind of, without talking shit, kind of overmatched people you were around?
Every fucking instance I've ever been in, dude.
It's a tough thing, isn't it?
It is. It's a very tough thing. And I actually, was speaking with my girlfriend before this. I was like, I know EYAL's going to ask me stuff that's going to probe these thoughts that I have. And then I'm gonna have to like filter it. But yeah, man, There's a lot. I think there's the people that tend to get to certain levels kind of have these similarities, and that's not to say I'm at any level of any of the people that I look up to, but I absolutely share this quality with feeling like I tend to pull the weight. I tend to have to step up to cover people's ass. I tend to play mom and dad. I tend to do the nanny housework, like the metaphorical shit within the band. Like it's all a matter of just like finally being in a band where everyone pulls their weight, goes above and beyond, under promises, over delivers. It's like the ultimate dream, man. I'm so stoked.
It's kind of a symptom of music, the music industry. It's such a like unprofessional industry that people just doing their job is like amazing. Whereas in a lot of other fields, if people just doing their jobs means they don't get fired. But in music, it's like, wow, they're actually responsible humans. It's unbelievable. But that said, was it a shock to the system to get into a situation where it's more like you can work together rather than be frustrated all the time?
I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, there's no point in me saying like, I don't want to say my old band names, but if you know me, you know the bands I've been in, so it doesn't really matter. But like my previous band that I was in.
Well, I felt that way about my old projects too, so it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, man. We're all musicians.
That's why they don't like me, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, being in my old band as Blood Runs Black was a very different thing, man.
I didn't realize you were in that band, by the way, until started doing research for this episode. So we toured with you guys.
Oh, dude, you must have toured with me right before I joined. I joined in 09. Did you do like...
this was 07, Summer Slaughter.
That makes sense. Yeah, I joined in 09. So you toured with... Was Ernie and Sal on the tour? Was that different guitar players at the time?
I cannot help you with that information.
Yeah, who knows, dude? Who cares? Band was a joke. Fact of the matter is, man, is like being in that band was incredible for me. Like I grew up in that scene around that area, listening to that band and going to those shows. So being in the position to like join that band was really, really awesome. And there's something that I read recently about like when people jump through hoops to quote unquote like be in a room, you're much more willing to look past the negatives and look at it like it's just normal. But if you were just placed in a room of like assholes, you'd be much more likely to be like distance yourself, right? But because I worked to be in As Blood Runs Black, there was like a Stockholm Syndrome element to it, right? To a certain degree, I put my fucking head down, did my work, showed up, did everything I was supposed to do and more, with a lot of stuff going on around me, interpersonally, business-wise, musically, that I just wasn't on board with. And something that I've spoken about in the past that I think is really, really valuable for anyone who's really just goal-oriented or even a musician, the concept of taking inventory on your goals and seeing if have you in fact reached them. Should you maybe lay out some other things for you to work on? What I did for years was the second I joined As Blood Runs Black, which was like my dream to be in an internationally touring band. The second I joined, I was, I guess, content, and contentment is the death of progression, as they say. So I just like, for 8.5 years, put my head down in a situation I was unhappy with, going in a direction I didn't want to go in.
Just because it was like on the surface,
yes,
exactly what you said you were going for. Exactly.
And the whole premise of like me having done the work to get there kind of put blindfolders on me, so I didn't really see all the shit I didn't want to, or I wasn't processing it. I certainly saw it, but I didn't process it and make judgments and movement off of it. But just the work alone that goes into being in those types of bands, which is majority of bands, honestly, I think puts you in a situation where you're not super aware of being surrounded by people who aren't doing the work that you want to be doing. I think there's a lot of just situations or opportunities happening that, without asking yourself, am I happy here? Is there more that I want? What else can I be doing? You sort of just get stuck. So that was me for 8 years, dude. I was just...
Well, think about what would happen if everybody started asking those questions. And by the way, I encourage people to ask those questions. But if more people ask those questions, there'd be way less bands, because people would be like, whoa, I'm in a terrible situation. This actually sucks. This is not what I signed up for.
That could be good for guys like us.
Yeah, it was good for me.
Yeah, because then it sort of like weeds out the weakness, right? Like you're not going to be in the band with a musician you don't really want to be in, except those people do find ways to like fake their way in, I find. Do you feel me on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I wanted out of my band by 2008.
Wow.
We didn't end till the end of 2010, but like 2008, and I didn't tell them.
Right.
If they ever hear this, they're going to be surprised because they probably thought that they wanted out first.
Right.
And I know they wanted out, but like it must have been 2007 or 8 where I was like, yeah, all right, this is not going to last that much longer. But then it just did because nothing cooler came along.
Yeah.
And I wanted out of my studio situation by the end of 2011. That didn't end until 2014. But yeah, I haven't wanted out of this one though. I'm cool with URM.
Dude, I am like, you are like kind of, in my mind, the pinnacle, ultimate modern day musician, producer, businessman. Like, I really revere what you do, and
Ex-musician, ex-producer.
I still consider you to be the things, man. I mean, you might not put that label on your titles, but the shit you've done is monumental, man.
Well, I appreciate it. I just don't like consider it current because
I get that.
I think it's cheesy to take stuff from 10 years ago and use that as how you bill yourself in the current day.
Right.
So like, I appreciate it. I am flattered and I am proud of that stuff. But, you know, it's 10 years old. So
I
can't
get that.
like, I can't call that what I
Totally.
do now. I think it's lame. It's lame to me because when I talk to people who are doing it now, like, yeah, we can connect on that. We've been through a lot of the same stuff, but I don't want to pretend like I'm making music now because
I should rephrase the statement that I said. It's the fact that you've gone through those things and you've managed to turn it into something so huge, stable, and like monumental as far as the community aspect and like the education and the kind of forwarding the mentality behind the home music creator. Like I don't know, man. There's something that I find very inspiring about someone like yourself who's had multiple types of careers in the things that I'm obsessed with and managed to invent your own or forge your own path and get people to sort of like go down the path with you. It's huge for me, man.
Well, the thing is that I realized was that I don't fit into anybody else's world. So if I don't create my own, it's just going to be fucking misery forever.
Absolutely.
Like I didn't feel like I really had a spot in my own band, like constantly clashing with them. And they're great musicians, but they kind of hated me and we were in completely different places. Definitely clashed at the studio I went to after that. Have clashed with people my entire life, actually, up until kind of now, where it kind of just one day it dawned on me that I need to just kind of do something that's where I'm like spearheading it and not either under somebody or compromising at all and just letting it be like my vision all the way through. And it took me a while to not feel like a cocky egomaniac doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But once I just kind of gave in to my nature, things started to work out and I got happier. So
yeah, dude.
if you are an egomaniac type or like an alpha type or visionary type or whatever it is, if you don't follow that, you're going to have a really hard life, I think.
Absolutely, man. That's honestly been the path that I've been on. Like my band before As Blood Runs Black was this band called Fallen Figure, which was my baby. I wrote the entire record. I funded it all, got all the artwork, wrote all the lyrics, all this shit. 2008-ish, Brian Slagle reaches out to us on MySpace, wants to sign us, and we're being managed by this dude named Lech, who was the drummer of As Blood Runs Black. And Lech sabotaged the deal and then asked me to join As Blood Runs Black with him.
What do you mean by sabotage the deal? And the reason I'm asking is because when Doth got signed, there were bands in Atlanta who were also talking to Roadrunner. Like there was another local band and we were talking to Monty. They were talking to Mike Gitter. And at the same exact time, and we got a deal and they didn't. And they went around saying that we stole their record deal, which is bullshit. You can't steal somebody's record deal. So,
right.
But what I'm wondering is how, like, what does it actually look like to have a record deal sabotaged?
In my unprofessional, completely emotional opinion, which is really valid for anyone listening, I suspect, and also like Lech is my boy. We have been in bands for like over a decade. Like no negativity there at all. But we had gotten a deal from Slagle, and then we started dealing with Mike Faley, I believe Faley was his name.
Yes, Mike Faley.
We went back and forth. We got it from like a 3-record deal to like a 2-record deal, and then we wanted to do another round of negotiations, and then we almost got what we wanted. And then we went to like Ian
Friedman, R.I.P.
Friedman.
Yep.
Wait, what? He passed away?
Like 2 years ago, yeah.
Oh, no.
He was my
dude.
lawyer, too.
Oh, no. I had that. Yeah, he was my lawyer for years. I haven't spoken to him for years, but wow.
Oh, now you know why.
Yeah, it's because he's dead. Fuck. Holy shit.
He hated labels.
Yes, he
I
did.
remember that about him. Yep. He was fucking brutal with labels.
Oh,
It's hilarious.
So Lech brought us into Ian for this final negotiation. This was like the 3rd round of negotiations, and Ian was just like redlining a bunch of shit, and Metal Blade just pulled the deal. And then Whitechapel got signed. So I feel like I could say Whitechapel got the deal we almost got, but it's hilariously the same thing that you just said. No such thing.
I bet you if you asked Faley or Slagle, they'd laugh if you said that.
Of course.
Because Whitechapel got their own deal.
Of course they did.
But about Ian, there was a time period when we were negotiating with Century Media, and he was doing that stuff where I had to tell him to back off because I felt like you're right, you're arguing these points, and I technically and logically agree with you, but I'm not willing to die on this hill and lose the deal.
Right.
Because I could tell that that's what was going to happen. He was saying things like, dude, it's going to kill your band. I was like, my band's already dead. Like, yeah, we just want this deal so we can put out one more thing to extend the life support a little further. But he was right about all that stuff. But I still think that if I had let him keep going, he would have killed the deal just on principle, which is what happened to you.
And like, it's really easy to say that he was just doing his job, and it's really easy to get emotional and paint it with like the word sabotage, which it is clearly not. But like, Lech had an agenda to get me in As Blood Runs Black. That's why he was managing Fallen Figure. So, that was revealed to me years after I was in As Blood Runs Black. He was like, yeah, I was poaching you, dude, for sure.
Well, I mean, there you go. If he said it.
It is what it is. Yeah, and I'm not, holding on to it, but you wonder what would have happened. I certainly would have been here talking to you about Ice 9 today. I'd probably be in like a shitty tech death band still.
It's weird, those things that don't seem like that huge of a deal, but are a total fork in the road.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, for instance, we got offered a deal by Prosthetic at around the same time as the Roadrunner deal.
EJ?
Yeah, EJ offered us an incredible deal. It was actually, in a lot of ways, better than the Roadrunner deal.
Wow.
Maybe it wasn't as financially good, but it was, like, better in lots of ways. But we went with Roadrunner because it's Roadrunner.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's Roadrunner. But in my mind, I was thinking, there's no way this is going to last. Like, going to go with Roadrunner, and it's going to be one album. That's it. Because there's no way that this is going to do well enough to sustain that. Now, I think that if we had gotten on Prosthetic, we would have done well enough for Prosthetic, which may have created a better working situation, which might have extended the life of the band longer. And I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So some of those mistakes aren't really mistakes, or fuck-ups aren't really fuck-ups, I think.
It's a very, very weird thing to like ever have a situation like that come about. And like, I've actually been training myself, and this might sound a little bit foofy, spiritual garbage shit, but I've just been trying not to label things as good or bad. That's like all I'm trying to do is like when shit happens, I'm just like, all right.
Shit happened?
Shit happened. Like, accept it, move forward, align with it, whatever the fuck. If it's the second that I go, that sucked, that my body then creates like thoughts and feelings and emotions, and then like the situation that I have no control over is then my enemy. What the fuck is that? How childish, right?
So at what point do you allow yourself to say that sucked?
I mean, I'll still say it. I'll for sure, like, that's why, that's the training, right? I'll go, that sucked.
But you try to limit its power, is what you're saying.
Exactly. I'll catch it. Like, there's an awareness there where I'll go, I just did the thing. And then instead of, like, stewing in my shit, I'll just watch it and then move past it. But other times, like...
So, like, the mindfulness meditation techniques where you observe your emotions rather than let them sweep you away, basically?
Yes. I'm
It's helpful.
very into all that stuff, man. I'm a weird dude. I'm into the insides.
I don't think it's froofy, man. I think it's kind of crucial.
It is.
Especially in such a high stress job where you are dealing with people that are emotionally unstable. Just being around people that have that kind of energy, like it can get on you. I only speak for this industry because this is the one I'm in. So maybe there's other ones like this. I'm sure Hollywood can be like that. I'm sure that something like being in combat can probably do that sort of thing. Anything where people are heightened, you're going to get emotional garbage or waste, and it clings to you. So I think that those types of techniques, they're not froofy, man. They're kind of crucial if you want to keep your mental health together.
It's super real, dude. Like there's something to be said about being in a room with other musicians and doing what's best for like the band consciousness and not letting your ego step into the situation. So for me, something that I do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're doing like 8 to 10 hour Ice Nine Kill sessions in this very room right now.
Nice room.
Yeah, thank you, man. We just got this house. Me and Joe, our bass player, just moved here with our girlfriends. It's dope little setup in Echo Park.
Looks comfortable.
It is very cozy, dude. Thank you. But if I don't spend time meditating and getting my shit right before a session, I find myself far more reactive, far more willing to take things personally when it's clearly just about band consciousness. What's the best thing for like the direction of the brand and the style that we're moving in. It's not about me getting my fucking way for any other reason than I want my way, right? So,
yeah.
So like meditation serves a very, very powerful tool in just situations like that, like being there to serve the situation instead of force yourself into it. I think for me, it's been huge.
What goes into these 8 to 10 hour sessions that would force you to be reactive?
Oh, God.
Like, what are you guys doing, first of all? Are you guys writing a record or like what's going on?
Yes, we're writing a record right now. And this is like,
okay.
This is exactly, I was talking to my girlfriend before this. I was like, I know he's going to ask me questions about this and I got to make sure I don't get reactive.
That's fine. And also, just so you know, we can edit stuff out afterwards.
Oh, dude, you know what? I don't give a shit, man. Cause like my brand is going to far exceed what the band is. Cause it's me for my life. So my brand as a musician is being real as shit, being super transparent, and not hiding shit because there's some reason to hide shit. So like I don't mind putting this out there, man. Something
okay. Fair enough.
I've been very vocal about a lot of shit like that, about my past or about negatives or about like I don't know, man. I'm not worried, in other words.
All right. Well then what we were saying.
Yeah, so what we're saying, what would cause me to be reactive in a session? So right now, Ice Nine Kills is for sure a powerhouse in like the metal world.
Yeah, it's insane.
It doesn't even make sense to me, dude. As an outsider looking in, it doesn't make sense. As an insider looking out, I'm even more fucking confused. But there's something about the fact that Silver Scream, the previous record, was written with Spencer as the main visionary. Everything was filtered through him. So there's this certain confidence in the fact that his vision, his filter, will be the path, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of like me and Joe, our other bass player, he was in a band called the Venetia Fair. Have you ever heard of them before?
Nope. I'm sorry.
Musically speaking, man. No, they're so fucking underground. Musically speaking, though, with all the stuff that you did with Doth, all the weird Hungarian minor, all the weird chromaticism and shit, Venetia Fair is insane, over-the-top circus.
Writing it down.
It's like the most musical shit I've ever heard in my life, man. It's unbelievable. Joe is hands down the best musician I've ever had the privilege of working with, and he's my roommate.
I see.
He was the piano player and main songwriter of that. Unbelievable. So like I have my own confidence in myself. I have this insane confidence in my roommate and bass player. Unbelievable. He's basically the MD of the band. He's the music director.
Talented dude.
Unbelievably talented. I know that between Joe and I, whatever Spencer wants to have happen can be had, right? Like we can make that happen. But a lot of times Joe and I will not agree. And you can imagine how any situation like that would go. But like, for instance, just yesterday we wrapped a song that's been, you probably have this situation before. It's an equation that needs to be cracked. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
there's what the fuck is the missing ingredient? I can't figure out what it is. So we've been having this song that's been the most requested song for us. For anyone who knows Ice Nine Kills, we do horror music stuff. So there's this one movie in particular that's been like a very requested topic, and we finally started tackling it. And we've written probably 15 different iterations of this song, dude. It's mind-numbingly painful. And the one that we finally landed on, Spencer comes in with this like 2-second riff idea. And I'm like, all right, cool. I see where you're at. We're in this key and we're at this tempo. Dope. Let's work on it. Let's build it out. Let's flesh it out. Let's get it going. We have an intro and a verse going, and it's fucking awesome. And then our next session, he comes in with a chorus progression, and he's like, I'm really feeling these vibes. Like, I know this will work. And I'm sitting there going like, all right, dude, you've changed keys, and we're now 20 BPM slower. Like, this is not going to fly. So I have to sit there and argue like endlessly. And I don't want to say argue because it's not like bickering, but it's presenting facts and evidence to get someone to be persuaded, right? So I'm basically trying to convince him to shift tempos, shift keys. I got him to shift keys. So now we have a chorus that's 20 BPM slower. What the fuck? So then Joe and I are sitting there coming up with this insane concept of how we can make this work. So instead of putting the song, the verse would be at, let's say, 150, and then the chorus would be at 130. So we were going to start the song at 75 so that it bumps up to 130, so it feels like a shift up to the first chorus instead of a shift down, because of the relative shift, if that makes sense.
Yep.
We were going to endlessly try to make it feel like it was going faster, even though it kept shifting down. And the end result was insane. Like, I have no idea how he came up with that approach, but it actually somehow felt that way. Didn't end up making Spencer stoked on the vision, right? He didn't see what he wanted to see. So he tears it the fuck apart. And we're like, great, cool. Like, now we have another song to just rip the fuck up. And then he comes in with another bridge idea. Cool, here's another tempo change, and now we're in another key again. So me and Joe are tasked with how do we get this in the song, in key or in tempo, and we managed to get it in tempo, but not in key. So we got him off of, we're gonna go slow, we're gonna stay in key, but we're gonna go slow. And now we're gonna go out of key, but we're gonna stay the same tempo. So now this song has 3 different songs in it, and it's like the best song we've ever written. Hands down.
Does Spencer agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's good.
Absolutely, he agrees.
That helps. So was that first tempo shift thing that you came up with almost like when you try to solve a creative thing with an academic solution and you work really, really hard on it and you kind of get carried away with how it works, but then maybe it's just artistically off a little bit? One of those?
Yeah, it was absolutely academic. It was very much like theorizing and me and Joe like sitting down over like some fucking tea and trying to figure out what we could do, right?
Just wasn't there yet.
Dude, it was. Like, we have so many songs that were there, but then Spencer's the vision, and this is like, again, no negatives. It's just, if he doesn't approve or sign off on it, then it's not Ice Nine, right?
Well, then it's not there.
It's just not there.
Yeah.
Right. So me and Joe can have our opinions, go, yeah, no, this song is dope. Like, I am satisfied. And then he's like, something about the chorus just isn't right. Or something about the bridge section we just got to redo. So then it's me and Joe's job to figure out what the hell he means. You know, he wants this part to be like stabby and gory. That's musically the direction he wants. So what do those words mean musically?
How do you define that?
Yeah, what does that mean? When he says it sounds muddy and I'm sitting there looking at the EQ and I know for a fact it is not muddy, what is he actually saying? Oh, arrangement. He wants to spread. He wants the lead higher and the riff lower. You know what I mean? It's like, it's learning how to, and this is a producer skill that I'm sure you're super aware of and flex all the time, but it's just learning how to translate someone's language so that it can be what they want to hear. And it's our job, Joe and I's, to basically translate the vision that Spencer has. And in any instance like that, it's going to be frustrating. And when we have a win and we're like, holy shit, this is it, it's phenomenal, man. Like, we just wrapped a song that got sent off to management just to like see if they liked it. And they're like, guys, this is the best song you've ever done. Go to Drew's right now and record this so we could put it out as a single. So like, Drew just got my DIs 2 days ago and he's like finishing the song right now. There's an energy there that we're capturing with this new music that I think didn't exist before. And for those of you who do know the band, our goal with the song we just did was to take out our song It Is The End, and we smashed it. That's like, have you heard that song before by any chance?
Yep.
That's like our punk, zany, clown, fucking weird thing, right?
Dude, your songs are all over the place.
They're all over, dude. And it's even further now. Like we have fuck it, dude. I don't even care what I'm saying. Like the song that we just finished, we're touching on like super throwback things. There's almost like an Elvis tinge to it, right? And then the new song that we just finished yesterday is so fucking fast, so technical, so System of a Down, and like zany, comical, Ice Nine cheeky shit, right? We're like 11 songs deep right now. Those are the last two that we've completed, and they're completely different books. But somehow those two books are sold in a box package. Ice Nine Kills. I don't know how it works, dude.
Do you think it's kind of interesting? I don't know what the right word is, but I felt this way about Avenged Sevenfold too, where you know how there's this stereotype that the bigger bands are not musically advanced or simpleton-ish or whatever. You know what I mean? There's this weird stereotype, but then I look at you guys, or I look at a band like Avenged Sevenfold, which you guys don't sound anything like them, but still, like, they're super incredible musicians, and their music is always like super advanced. And I look at you guys and like, it's very, very commercial in its own weird ass way, but this is like real music. Do you find that strange?
Are you kind of hinting at the notion of like that it's commercially accessible, but when you kind of peel back the layers, it's like, what the hell is going on in here?
Yeah, it's like the real deal, like real music by real musicians.
Yeah, I don't really know what it is, man. And it's also something that like As Blood Runs Black sort of had. It's like this gateway band type of energy where like it's the first metal band that people check out because there's something really tangible and accessible on the surface. And then you could either go deeper and decide like, oh, fuck, this band is dope. Or you kind of use that band as a catapult to check out like the real metal stuff, right? I always found As Blood Runs Black specifically was that the amount of times that we had like 13, 16-year-olds covering our shit online, and that was like their first metal song that they learned or something, right? Ice Nine has a very similar thing. We have a lot of beginning guitar players who are very into what we do. We have a lot of singers and lyricists who are really like attached to the power and persona that Spencer has. So like there's a lot of just like artistic kids, outcasted artistic kids, I should say. There's something very specific about the demographic of Ice Nine. It's the pushed away people, you know what I mean? And they all have had this place to now come and collect and gather and kind of like put all of their energy and support into. And Ice Nine somehow managed to be like the victor in that battle. I don't know what happened there, but do you kind of feel me on that? Like
I do. It's just, you just don't normally associate that kind of band with intricate, complex, advanced musicianship.
It's so strange, man.
It's kind of odd.
Yeah. There's something straight up. We just we're working on a track with Feldman that is so radio, so perfect for radio, right? Huge sounding.
I believe it.
And then the next time we went to Feldman, we're like, we need to do just insane Ice Nine metal. Like we have to balance that out. And with Feldman, like the dude is so polished, so clean. Everything that guy does is so thought out. He literally is just like, this isn't my realm. Let's just have fun and see what happens. And it just becomes a thing where like being in a room with someone like him who's kind of directing and guiding us, but also knowing that like it's not his forte. So he was kind of in that particular session, he was really looking at me to kind of like lead with riff ideas and where it would go.
So he knows when to get the fuck out of the way.
Yes, and it was incredible, dude.
Like a great producer. Surprise.
Surprise. But the dude is terrifyingly spontaneous. Like for instance,
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, for instance, like this tech song that we're writing where it's like, this isn't my forte, guys. Like we should definitely write something really, really technical. And then you'd think like a conversation would ensue and maybe like some talks over lunch about what the song could be, talking about ingredients. But no, he literally goes, we need a tech death song, hits the R button, turns around and goes, what do you have for me? And I'm sitting there like, this? I don't know. And then immediately he's like, yeah, that was cool. Let's build on that. So he's like a spark farmer. He's looking for like tiny little sparks
That's a good way to put it.
to turn into like fires. Like that's the way I look at my producing. I always look for those little tiny things to build on. But that's what I see his specialty as, is he just wants to be in a room with people who are talented as shit doing what they do. And then he captures like the magic, whatever that may be.
So it sounds like your role in the band, I mean, along with obviously playing the instrument and performing, like the standard stuff that
Right.
everyone in a band has to do. Sounds like your role is kind of like internal producer, internal arranger, from what you've said. I'm sure there's other stuff you do too, but that's what we've talked about. What's it like for you as someone who has developed that and obviously has a strong musical personality to then get into the room with someone like John Feldmann, who is like known to be like musical alpha?
Yeah.
How do you learn to, I guess, know when to turn it down in your own head and just go with what the dude's got to say? Or when do you know, how do you know when to push back on someone like that?
It's interesting that in you asking the question, my mind is doing a bunch of things.
Or even Drew Falk, man, that dude too, you know?
Yeah, Drew knows what the fuck he wants, man. Drew is a very similar and different producer. The difference in Drew is you would go to lunch and talk about what it would be, but then you'd go there and he would just be like, no, not that, not that.
Yeah, but he's staggeringly talented. I guess that's
God.
what I mean, is how do you like know when to tell your own voice to shut the fuck up and just go with what one of these guys is saying?
It's really interesting, man. I mean, the first session we had with Feldmann, I literally just went there with like my fucking scholastic cap on.
I feel like I talked to you that day.
Yeah, you did. You reached out. Yeah. I went there with my fucking schoolboy uniform on and took notes and was just there to watch how he not only like harnesses ideas but creates them. Like there will be moments where we're like sitting there. I mean, I should take back a little bit of what I said before. There are times where we'll all sit down in the room with an acoustic and be like playing with chords and like, what would this melody sound like over it? But in those moments, he'll just like grab a guitar and walk away for 15 minutes and come back and he's like, here's a chord progression with lyrics and a melody. And then that's like the thing that we sit and build on and work around. So there's this like a spontaneous genius that I'm sitting there trying to figure out like where that comes from. So there's a certain air of me just wanting to be there to observe and witness and kind of like through osmosis absorb what I can. But then there's this other part of me. Have you ever heard of the canvas strategy?
No, maybe. Tell me.
Are you a Tim Ferriss fan?
I'm not going to say I'm not a Tim Ferriss fan.
You're aware of him.
I mean, I've read his books too.
Cool.
Let's put it this way. I think he's brilliant. I don't think that people interpreted his works the way he meant them, though.
Yes.
That's what I'll say. Like 4-hour work week isn't
Not what it is.
telling you to only work 4 hours. He's a dude that works 12 hours a day and like admittedly has like no friends and is usually single. So like he's a workaholic. I think people missed the point of what he was trying to say. That's all.
Yeah, I absolutely hear that. And I think that's a really valuable thing to mention. But the thing that I took away from Tools of Titans specifically was this canvas strategy thing, which is basically like the person who clears the path controls the direction.
I agree.
Or like the person who provides the canvas controls the shape of the painting. That's like the whole canvas strategy concept. So it's like me sitting there in those sessions to be a conduit to make his idea happen allows me somewhat an air of, I don't want to say control or power, but it's because I'm like the conduit to it that I've humbled myself enough to where he wants to hear what I have to say when I say it, if that makes sense.
Got it. Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah, like when I speak, it's like, oh, it must mean something because like he doesn't mention shit often.
I mean, dude, you got to have some sort of a strategy, in my opinion,
Yeah.
in order to be able to communicate with people like that,
Oh God.
that are operating on that level.
And there's also this other thing as far as like the dude is just wired. Like there's an amount of coffee that I couldn't have to catch up with how like wired he is.
I feel like, dude, I just spoke to somebody the other day on the podcast who said the exact same thing about Feldmann, that the amount of energy, I think it was Jake Pitts from Black Veil Brides who said this. They said that the amount of energy, the guy, I think it was him, and I do so many of these that sometimes I get blurry, but said that the amount of energy that dude has is just off the charts.
It doesn't make sense, man. We get there at like noon and he had just finished like a full day's session already somehow, had a 2-hour workout, and then wants to play ping pong with me and Spencer for an hour before our session. Which, by the way, if you want to get into Feldmann's heart, get good at ping pong.
When does he start? Like at 4 a.m.?
Dude, I don't even know. Like every time we go there will be someone in a session with him, but he'd already gotten a workout in as well. I don't know what. Does he sleep?
I like that.
I don't even know, but the guy's like 50 and he's acting like a 20-year-old. It's so fucking inspiring, dude. And beyond that, the life the guy has is like unbelievable. Like he's got a beautiful house and family in Calabasas, but then half of his house is dedicated to being this like secluded studio vibe, and you feel like you're in another world, and then you just pop on the other side of the door and go into his kitchen and make tacos. It's just like so cool, dude. Such a great vibe for creating.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't, like I was saying, if you don't have a strategy for how to communicate with people like that, they're just going to do their thing, and whatever they do is going to be their thing.
Yeah.
Because they're so powerful, basically.
It's really ironic you say this. Me and Joe and I also have our own podcast. He mentioned this in his own podcast the other day, which is why we talked about it.
What's it called?
His podcast is called That's Awesome with Joe, and mine's called Mindframe. I'm launching it very, very soon. I actually just signed a deal with Dave Shapiro to come out on his network.
Nice. Congrats.
Stoked about that.
That guy's impressive too.
Yeah. Oh, God. That guy is like a accomplishment of humanity. I don't know how he does what he does.
Yeah.
So Spencer is a visionary and a very specific personality type, right? I've historically struggled with getting my idea across the board and then into the DAW unless Spencer leaves the room, and then I get to record it and he goes, whoa, what the fuck is that? That's awesome. But if he's in the room, he won't let it happen. But Joe has this magical ability where like if Spencer's in the room, Joe manages to like get his shit in. And we've been talking about the strategy. It's really inception. It's planting the idea in his head to make him think it's his idea, right? Arguably manipulative, arguably just like good practice as a producer to like make the best music in the environment, right? But I've been practicing this and I've been like, trying to get better at it. And during our session the other day, Spencer would say something like, oh, it'd be really cool if we did this. And I was like, yeah, man, I just said that 20 minutes ago. And then I'm sitting there like, fuck, I just revealed that I... And that happened like 5 times in the day where he was like, we should do this. And then I stopped saying I just said that. And I realized like, holy shit, like his idea is my idea that I said 30 minutes ago. So there's like an interesting thing in being able to like circle back and get your thing in there, even though it may not necessarily be the vision. I think there's like a willingness to see, if you trust your bandmates enough, there's a willingness to see the vision on all ends. You know what I mean?
Well, I have an opinion about that technique. And I think that if you're working with the kind of person who needs to feel like the idea is theirs, and I've worked with people like that, I think we all can be stubborn. Like I'm sure I do it too sometimes. I don't think it's a bad thing to use that technique, because if the idea is not worthy, then they're probably not going to take to it anyways. If you plant the seed and then 30 minutes later, they forget that you planted it, but it actually grew into something, then who the fuck cares where it came from? Let them believe they came up with it. It doesn't matter. Point is, it's a good idea, and it's stuck.
Yeah, what's the cream rises to the top, that old saying? I feel like it's really just that. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure there's a bunch of ideas that you floated that didn't stick, So who cares?
Yeah, it's a persistence thing, and being willing to like know that your idea maybe won't be heard, and maybe this technique will reveal its ugly ass head in 30 minutes and we'll see what we can do with it. But otherwise, like, I'm here to just serve the session and make this song as good as it can fucking be, because I'm here to support the brand and the sound. And that's to me what getting hired to be in a band that's currently already like a thing, that's your role. I'm absolutely coming in and like kicking these fucking walls down, and I'm like not gonna play guitar like a bitch. Like there's certain things that I'm not gonna do. Like I like vibrato. I'm a huge vibrato guy. I'm huge on feel. I'm huge on bends. The old guitar player didn't ever do those. Like that was not a thing that would ever happen. Like it was almost robotic. So like for me, there's gonna be an air of like a human touch that's gonna be involved in the new sound that I don't think was there before. So like if it's just that, if that's the only ingredient that I'm bringing, that's enough for me. But in reality,
nothing wrong with an upgrade.
Yeah. In reality, though, there's so many fucking ingredients that I'm bringing to the table that I can't really talk about yet. And I also don't even know what seeds will grow into what. So we'll see, right?
When you got hired, was it understood that you'd get some input at some point? Or was it one of those, this is just cool that it's happening, this band is doing stuff, let's just see how it goes. And then over time, I started to trust you a little more, and it just organically developed.
Yeah, dude. There was definitely like an organic trust that developed. But on the very first tour that I did, all of a sudden, like, we're a fucking radio band instead of like some kind of metalcore, deathcore thing. And we're having to play acoustic performances at 8 a.m. like almost every other day for these radio stations. And that could be to 30 people who won some contest or to 3 old guys eating bagels who work at the station. And it's just entertainment for them, which is like a really weird thing to feel like a whore. You know what I mean? Like, I really, feels like prostitution. But there's like, there was that thing of like, okay, so now we need to be a radio band, and that means we need to get acoustics, and that means we have metal songs that need to be acoustic now. And Spencer's like baffled and looks at me and he's like, all right, what the fuck does that mean? So I arranged a bunch of songs for acoustics. Me and Joe put a lot of time into making that what it was. And then we started performing these things, and they were received really well, and Spencer enjoyed the shit out of doing them. Those songs, I think, were like my foot in the door to prove my worth as like, what can you do with something I don't know what to do with? And then Spencer offered me, like, after that first tour happened, everyone flew back home, and I was the only one at this time living in Los Angeles. And we had this acoustic performance with Ash Costello from New Year's Day. I don't know if you're aware of her.
Nope, but I am now, I guess.
Yep, she's 500,000 followers on Instagram. You'll see her one day, I'm sure. It's insane. There's like a goth, metal, rock, Rob Zombie, chick-fronted.
I feel like I've seen her before.
They're cool, man. We toured with them. They're fun people. But we got back. We had to do this acoustic performance, and Spencer was like, I don't want to do this myself. Can you help me out? So me and him prepared some songs, did a performance with Ash, and that was like the first time that Spencer had me come over to his house to like work on music. After we had done that, the performance was like, went off well. He invited me over to start. He's like, I have a couple riff ideas, man. Do you think you can come over and see what we could do? And I sat down on his rig, which is GarageBand, and I don't use GarageBand for shit. And we're sitting there developing a demo for what turned out to be Your Number's Up, which is our song about Scream. And there was so many different iterations of that, man. If the version that I wrote was released, we would have been like solidified as like a very technical death metal band, which would have been fucking cool. There was a lot of stuff in one of the versions that I did that I would have loved to bring as a new ingredient, because I feel like there was a moment where there was enough eyes on like the band because, quote unquote, the guitar player who wrote everything left, and now there's this new guy, which isn't the case at all. Spencer wrote mass amounts of almost everything. But I had this opportunity to kind of come in and show what I could do, and wrote a version of the song, got peeled apart, blah, blah, blah. But effectively, in me taking the time to make my version of the song, Spencer saying it's not quite what he wants, and then me showing my willingness, I guess, to like get it to be what he wants, that I think was the proof he needed. That song was fucking awesome. I actually think that's been voted by our fans like the #1 song right now, which is insane. It being the first song that I wrote with the band. And then right after that, we were tasked with doing a cover of the Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller song. And
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of Michael Jackson. I don't know his music though.
Think so.
He's a basketball player, right?
Sounds familiar.
The Bulls?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
But I was basically asked to like play rock guitar, but then we want this over the top fucking solo. So I was like finally given the opportunity to have fun with the solo, and that was received well. So all of a sudden I am in Spencer's eyes, I think, and this is me 100% unpacking because I don't know, but I think it sort of proved that like I could be told no and then work my way to figure out how to get it right. And then I could also like fit the role of making it feel like rock or whatever weird request he wants, and then helicopter my dick around on a solo when he wants. You know what I mean? So that mixed with the fact that all of the songs that I'd arranged acoustically were then re-recorded and put on a re-release of the Silver Scream. So we have the Silver Scream final cut, which had my track, Your Number's Up, Thriller, and 5 of the acoustic songs that I was a part of arranging, were then re-released on the record that I had no part in, and then all of a sudden I'm thrust into the brand. Arguably on the surface, like the company, the LLC. That's not the case, but because it seems like I'm so involved, people are just accepting of it right now. Like I am in the band, we're writing the record now. People are accepting of it. So I think it was right person, right place, right time, showing up to do the fucking work. And again, like I said earlier, under promising and over delivering was a really big part of it.
I think that's kind of like the way to make anything work in music, pretty much. That's like, if there's any rule I've noticed, it's that the more you under promise and over deliver, the better off you'll be. That's how everybody I know who's ever advanced in a role has done it in their own particular way. But it basically comes down to that. And you can see people who don't do that, people who overpromise and then kind of deliver, or overpromise and underdeliver, or don't even promise and just kind of complain. Any variation besides underpromise, overdeliver tends to have a limited lifespan, or if they don't have a limited lifespan, there's like a ceiling on how high they're allowed to rise. And the reason I say allowed to is because, as you know, everything, no matter how well you do or how talented you are, you always need somebody to say yes to you. There's always somebody involved with saying yes, like whether it's, yes, we're going to give you this deal. Yes, we're going to let you in this band. Yes, you can go on this tour. Yes, whatever. It's always a yes involved.
Absolutely.
And I feel like people who over-deliver tend to get that yes way more easily.
It's true, man. I mean, if someone tells me, dude, you have to try this burrito. It's the best fucking burrito you will ever have. You fucked it.
Big words.
Yeah, you done fucked yourself right away, because when I take a bite and it's good, I'm going to be bummed that it wasn't great. Do you know what I mean? But
absolutely.
If you're like, a little hole in the spot wall, like they make burritos, tacos, it's dope, let's check it out. And I take a bite of that and it's like unreal. Dude, I'm sold. I'm going there every fucking Friday. Like, where are you? Why aren't you here? It's a different thing. And I think there's something to be said about that everywhere, not even just in music or business. Like, even in just communicating to like your loved ones. You know what I mean? It's an interesting thing.
Yeah. I mean, it helps to not be a bullshitter, even though I think that people think that salesmen bullshitters tend to have an advantage in life. I feel like it's short-sighted. Short-sighted to do that, because eventually you build up a reputation with people. Over time, it's not a good thing to do that. Like, you might score some short-term wins by just being manipulative or persuasive, but people aren't dumb. Over time, if you consistently don't provide results that are either better than or congruent with the words you speak, people are going to remember that.
Yeah, man. I mean, one of the easiest ways for me to like see that in my own life is like my retention rates with my students, with my guitar students. It's like, if I had an insane turnover rate, that'd be saying a lot about my shit. But the fact that they're willing to stick around says much more about the fact that they're getting what they want, instead of me trying to sell them into it and then convince them every time and like carrot and stick their way to the next lesson. You know what I mean? Like, there's something about just delivering that keeps the repeat happiness going.
Yeah, I can tell you that with URM, people think that we advertise heavily and market a lot because they see us everywhere. But in reality, our ad spend is actually really, really low compared to what people think it is. But people stick around and they show up organically. And I think it's for that same reason. When we've told people our ad spend, they're like, how is that even possible? How do you think it's possible? We don't have to go nuts.
Yeah, dude, word of mouth is insane. Like, if you have people who are, it's canvas strategy, man. You are forging the path for all these people to learn what they're doing, and then they're going to be the preachers you need to like get excited so you don't have to, right? They're going to get all their friends stoked on it because you changed their life in a weird way.
Absolutely. So how did you figure this out as far as teaching people goes? Like, is this something that you just started because you're a guitar player and it made sense? Because a lot of guitar players do that. I did too at some point.
Dude, I'm weirdly like you and I want to chat with you about this a lot, just because I know the world you're in with this stuff. But I would consider myself a guitar and music teacher and mentor before I consider myself like a songwriter, touring musician, or anything that I'm doing on the surface. Because where I really excel and where I really get the most like internal reward is in teaching people. And it sounds really fucking lame for me to say that. But there's something about like the selfless sharing of what I love so much and watching other people learn to love it the same way that I do. Because I know this shit saved my life. I know that without music, I fucking would not be here today. And it really, really, really means a lot to me when I see that connection happen with other people. And I honestly live for that shit. So like, how did I find out the way to kind of play the long game with students is kind of your question, right?
Yes.
It really comes down to just like interpersonal skills, I think, with people and communication. And I think it comes down to being really transparent and also knowing how to connect things with music, particularly in a way where they might not know that they're being led down a path that's going to lead them to what they want, but if they can trust the guidance, that they know they'll get there. And there's something in kind of like blindly just following the teacher that can be super fucking detrimental. And it's when you deliver on that shit or over deliver on that shit that they want to stick around. They want to keep going down the path. They're willing to just like turn a blind corner with you to see what's going on. And that's been my obsession, dude. I've been teaching full time for over a decade. Several different iterations of things going on, but I had launched a semi-successful, we had very large plans, but I launched a semi-successful guitar school called Everfret about 2 years ago. And we had amassed a pretty good amount of students. We had some pretty cool products that we were doing, but the business partner that I had at the time was it just turned all bad.
Those things happen.
Oh, dude, and this is another thing that I said, I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to talk about the situation.
No need.
Doesn't deserve it, right?
Fair enough.
But that was like the opening to all of this shit. So like during that, I started something called Everfret TV. So like once a week, we had a guitar player or another musician come on Instagram Live with us. And the whole concept was about getting into their mind frame. It was about understanding like, how have you overcome failures? What have you done when you've hit a wall and felt like you didn't want to keep going? How did you get to where you are right now with X, Y, and Z in your way? With the purpose being actionable takeaways. Like what, if you were a listener, what would you walk away with and being able to apply to your life as a musician? So that was like one of the facets of Everfret, mixed with like tab books, mixed with like online courses. So I'm taking all those components that I 100% did myself with a partner who took all of the credit, like I'm sure you've felt in your life.
It's happened.
Yeah, I'm taking all of those ideas and things that I developed and I'm launching it again and rebranding it. So right now I've just launched what I'm calling Sugarman's Lesson Lounge. I have a huge-ass Discord group with 250 plus students of mine, Facebook group, and I'm developing a bunch of different levels of it. And I know the world you're in, riff hard. Are you taking your oxygen right there?
This is a vocal nebulizer. People always think I'm vaping.
Is it just moisture?
It's like saline solution. It helps.
Is it with like your...
This was recommended to me by Mary Zimmer from Voice Hacks. I listened to her about anything to do with voice. I started taking speaking lessons from her just because I need to be able to speak a lot. And she recommended this thing. Everyone thinks I'm vaping, but I'm not.
Is that like to keep your throat from getting cracky when you're talking or something?
Yeah, man, I talk a lot. I do these like every single day, and then live streams and phone calls and meetings. It's just, I want my voice to keep working.
That makes a lot of sense, man. That's your new instrument. That makes perfect fucking sense.
Basically.
Yeah, dude. So basically, like, there's so many different components of that, man. Like, we had our third partner, who is still my partner with my new company. He's a venture capitalist on Wall Street. The dude's like deeply invested in knowing what the fuck he does, and he had like valued the previous company very highly because that's what he does. So he was really into it and started connecting us with people, and shit fizzled because of my partner. Fast forward till now, shit is going really well, and I just want to say this now. I focus on leads. I focus on lead guitar playing. I know what you do. I know what you and John do.
Dude, there's a lot of guitar players in the world. It's all good.
Yeah, super true. And I would never compete with John Brown's fucking right hand. I'd be stupid to do that.
Not many people can.
I know, dude. I know. It's crazy to watch.
Yeah, it's insane. It's freakish.
It really is. But there's something really, really cool about for me, like developing a community that's completely centered around evolving as a musician, as a guitar player, as a person, and then the community support around that, and getting like someone who might be one step ahead of you and someone one step behind you. If in your community you're getting advice from someone and giving advice to someone, that's like the ultimate learning, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. As far as the community aspect goes, the lesson lounge that I've been doing is just like so fucking awesome. Currently it's free, but as you can imagine with anyone who knows business and is business minded, this is a funnel and it will be turning into a lot of awesome things in the near future. And all of that goes hand in hand with like my Mind Frame podcast. That is a continuation of Everfret TV. I'm going to continue having these deep discussions with other musicians about specifics on how they do what they do, for the purpose of giving, up and comers and earlier musicians a leg up and some kind of takeaway to walk away with and apply. That's effectively like my whole purpose, man. Like what I want to do with my career and brand is that shit. I want to be, obviously, being in a band is fun as shit, man. But I'm 30. Am I going to be doing this when I'm 50? I don't know. Probably not. I want to have some other things that I get.
It's good to be looking at things that way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm Jewish, dude.
Yeah.
My dad and family forced me to think this way very early on. And
an endangered species.
Yeah, an endangered species for sure.
Got to always think like an endangered species.
So true.
By the way, something you said about the teaching people thing, you said that it sounds lame. So anyways, when I first started doing this stuff, like in 2013 and did my first Creative Live, I enjoyed it a lot more than just about anything else I had done.
I loved that, by the way.
The Easy Drummer one?
Yeah, on putting your drums together. That was like one of the first production metal just exposés that I ever saw. It was awesome.
I think it may have been the first one that I know of, and I had never even used Easy Drummer before that point. I learned it that week for the class, and I thought it was the lamest thing ever. I was doing a favor to my friend Finn, but it went so well, and I enjoyed it so much more than anything that had happened with production or my band that I would tell people, but then I'd feel like I was lying.
Yes.
Or that they thought I was lying or something. And then for many years, I'd get people who were being like, yeah, but don't you just want to tour again or something like that? It's like, no, not really. Actually, I'm happy with this.
Yeah.
So I don't think it sounds lame, but I understand why you would say that. But I don't think it's lame.
It really comes down to the fact that what I do on the surface, so many people in the world are like, that's what I want to do. And I'm sitting here saying that I love the thing that is arguably lame. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's plan B for a lot of musicians. But, dude, most musicians who teach aren't thinking about starting a whole business empire around it, just to be clear.
You know Matt Squire?
Yeah, the producer.
Yeah, are you aware what he's doing with live streaming right now?
No, I was aware what he was doing in Washington a few years ago.
That guy literally just solved the entire live stream problem. I actually heard you talking with, it was either Nick Johnson or Matt Halpern or someone on a podcast about live streaming being a problem.
Yeah.
He solved it. He literally solved it. Did you hear about the new Under Oath stream that just came out?
I did, yeah. I heard it went great.
That was his technology that they used.
Nice.
He solved the whole thing to where anyone where they are can jam in real time and there's no latency, blah, blah, blah.
I don't know if you're aware, but we just figured out how to do Nail the Mix totally remote. No drop in quality at all. Actually, higher quality somehow than before.
I saw that.
Did a 10-hour stream the other day, and it was awesome. It was actually better.
And easier. You don't have to get on a plane.
I'm not saying I never want to be in person with people again. Obviously, we will. But there were some aspects about this that was actually better. Definitely, like I said, higher production value. But the fact that I could talk to people face-to-face as opposed to the back of their head made it way easier as a host.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, dude, just the fact that you don't need to fly to Finland to shoot a thing tomorrow and then be dead ass for 3 days, but you're supposed to be on the ball. That's so challenging, man. I can imagine you waking up in your bed to be like, let's go do a 10-hour stream Feels a lot better.
It's a new thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole new thing. I mean, you understand what travel does to you. So, like, for instance, at the end of last year, this is in some ways, like, I consider it to be, I don't know what I consider to be tougher. Like when my band did a 90-day tour or what I was doing last.
Recently.
Yeah, the 90-day tours are intense.
That was my first tour back after 3.5 years not touring. That was my first Ice Nine tour. Was 90 days.
Yeah, dude, it changes you.
Fuck.
You come back a different person. So we did Nail the Mix with Jens Bogren in LA at the end of October. Then I went to Atlanta for 2 days, then to Vegas to do the URM Summit for a week, then went to Atlanta for 2 days, then went to Denmark for 4 days to do Nail the Mix and shit with Tui Madsen, then flew straight from there to New Jersey to shoot the course with Will Putney, and then months later went home. It's like that kind of stuff. The difference between that and touring, especially van touring, is we're in decent hotels and all that, but that doesn't change the fact that you're traveling all the time and you're jet lagged and you're crossing time zones and you have to be on it at all times. So yeah, waking up in my own bed and then coming downstairs and doing a 10-hour stream, it was still brutal. Like, it's still a 10-hour stream where I have to be on the whole time. But the big difference is I'm not jet lagged on top of it. That's a huge difference.
It's a huge relief, man. And there's almost something in just like, I have a very challenging diet to live with. I'm vegan and gluten-free, and it's the fucking worst.
Sounds tough.
Arguably plant-based. I somehow still struggle using the word vegan because I feel like it goes hand in hand with like shaming people, and I'm not about that.
Okay, fair enough.
Do you kind of feel me on that?
Well, yeah, I've been vegetarian for like 25 years. And I'm pretty much, I would say, vegan in practice, but I don't associate with that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I told you now because it came up, but I generally don't.
Right.
I won't bring it up. Like, I don't care what restaurants we go to. Like, I don't make it a thing, and I don't get involved with that stuff because I don't give a fuck what other people eat, and I don't think it should be anybody's business.
Very, very true, dude. I mean,
sounds like we're on the same page.
We absolutely are. I try to keep it to a minimum, and the instances where it's an issue is where like I didn't get to eat for 2 days because tour manager forgot to send off my dietary restrictions or something like that, right? And that's the only time where I'm like,
yep.
Hey, can I just get like a banana? Like, that'd be really cool. You know what I mean? But there's something to be said about knowing where your fucking meal comes from. I was like, just the relief and comfort in that, for me, would remove a huge amount of stress in my day. So the fact that like you could be at your house, getting some food, like I know it's like a small thing, but I'm just like,
dude, it's not a small thing when it's multiplied over long periods of time.
Yes, insane compound effect.
Any of these inconveniences or quote unquote hardships that are exacerbated by travel are not a big deal if it's only 2 times a year. But if it's part of your lifestyle, then it becomes a problem. So it's something you got to address.
Absolutely. And I'm sitting here now in what you just said, I'm going, oh yeah, I just had to like readjust to home life.
It's weird, isn't it? It's
so weird, man. Like I just spent the last year readjusting to living out of a bag and being cool with, not showering for whatever the hell comes along with touring. There's a lot of calibrating that has to go with like being cool with that shit. Being home for the past 5 months has been unreal, dude. And the amount of progress and energy I'm able to like harness and use instead of like waste. I feel like there's so much energy and time that's just wasted on tour. Cause like if I feel creative musically, what could I do? Sit on stage and noodle? Like I don't have my full setup. I don't have like, and beyond that, like I'm a creature of habit. So like I'm comfortable in my space. So I can't really pop in the back of the bus and like get it out of me as easily as I would here. So there's something just about like having the comforts around you that, I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent here, man, but I'm stoked that you have this ability to focus on you now because I know how important that is for you.
Oh, it's huge. It's been life-changing. And by the way, I do think that being able to be creative requires you to not be worried about other things. Like you need to be able to go into that state of mind. And so if your environment's constantly changing, if you're uncomfortable, all that stuff, it's hard to channel that. I've tried riding on tour before. Like, set up in the back of the bus kind of thing. It sucks.
We do it. We just finished.
You do it because you have to, but it's not ideal.
We finished 2 songs completely. It was done. I'm so fucking pissed about it. We had a deadline to where on the last tour we just did with Papa Roach in March, we had to finish songs to be mixed, mastered, completed, to be released as singles for our 5 Finger Death Punch tour. We complete it under the gun, meet the deadline, tour's canceled, coronavirus ruins the world.
Yeah.
It was pretty rad. So like that song's on hold.
At least everyone's on the same page though.
Yeah. At least coronavirus wasn't like an Ice 9 specific situation.
Yeah. That would have been way worse.
Yeah, I think the world would feel pretty bad about that.
So where does production come into this? Like, so we've covered that you're very much into teaching people, very much into guitar, very much into creating things. Like, do you have a passion for production, or is it just a means to an end like it was with me? I never had a passion for it.
I'm not obsessed with it the same way that I want to like know the ins and outs of like an altered dominant chord and all the different ways to use it. And like, what could I do if I make a sharp 13, you know, like there's a different quality to it. Like when I sit down in my studio to record, it's not so interesting, man. I'm like, these aren't words that I've ever fucking pulled on before. I am obsessed with the creative process, and I'm obsessed with the result, and then the journey is the means to get there. And I've learned over the years to love the shit out of that. And in different situations, the journey can be frustrating. It can be rifled with bullshit and landmines, and it could also be some of the most rewarding shit that there is. So like, it's really, for me, I guess, like you said, a means to an end. And I've gotten proficient and good enough to where like, I mix for people, and I do very, very bullshit masters. Like if a real mastering engineer listened to my shit, they'd be like, hey, what the fuck? But, you know, I do stuff for people because I figured it out over the course of a decade having to do it for myself. I feel like musicians are this forced multi-tool, especially the modern day musician. You're like, if you're not a Swiss Army dude, you're fucked. You're dead in the water.
Video just got added to that too.
Oh yeah, and I've been doing that for the same amount of time, you know, and this is the other thing, like with Ice 9, they're tasking me with like, hey, can you record like a guitar lesson video explaining this thing, and then we'll hinge our entire EP campaign around a guitar contest based on the video that you shoot and edit and mix yourself, right? So like the fact that they can rely on me for that type of shit, I also think is another thing that just provides value. And this is not me bigging myself up. This is me talking about the value that you provide to those around you really determines what you can do with your shit. That's really all I'm trying to say.
I don't think it's bigging yourself up. I think a lot of people listening would love to know not just how to get a gig like that, but how to keep it, you know?
Yeah. It's a maintenance thing, and it's...
Which in some ways is even harder.
Dude, it is, man. I constantly am asking myself, what do other members not want to do that I could do?
That's what we ask ourselves about the competition.
Yeah. And then honestly, man, it's a business strategy. I'm quite literally red teaming myself and my team, or my band. Are you aware of the term red teaming? I'm pretty sure you probably are that.
Nope.
Red team go, red team go. Heard that 1,000 fucking times in your life?
Yes.
Military, when they're practicing, will create blue team, red team. All same side military, all, you know, American, whatever the fuck country you want to say they are. Red team and blue team. The blue team's job will be to protect a perimeter. Red team's job is to infiltrate the perimeter to expose weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Is the red team's job to kill the blue team? No, it's to expose the weaknesses so that they can step out and go, we, the military, need to get better at this.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of red teaming yourself. It's a matter of asking the questions and probing to poke the holes, not to be a piece of shit, but to solidify the perimeter, to infiltrate your own shit to make it better. So like I'm constantly just probing and poking holes. And a lot of people, and I've dealt with this, like you were saying before, I clash with everyone, man. A lot of people have a hard time working with me because of the way my brain works. I'm sitting here obsessed with looking for problems, and people think that I'm focused on the negative, but what they don't understand is that the rate at which I shift between seeing problem to solving problem that's where shit changes. I like to see the problem and then focus on solving it, where a lot of people, their tendency would be to not look at the problem or to only see the problem. Do you know what I'm saying a little bit?
Yeah. So do you think that what's working about your current relationship with the band is that they kind of already think at that level? So you're kind of like in your own element in a way.
Yes. To a certain degree, everyone is autonomous. We're all operating on our own shit because we've all done our time, so to speak, and we've all earned the seat at the table, I guess you could say. And I mean, if there was enough times where like you didn't meet requirements, like that would have happened already in your career and you wouldn't have been invited to the table. So I think there's a certain level of just like understanding everyone's there. We've all done the grind. I joined this band, dude, not knowing any of the fucking members. Ricky, our other guitar player, he's also a vocalist of this band, Hawk, used to be This or the Apocalypse. You probably heard of them. Actually, amazingly, and I love talking to Ricky about this, Chris Adler produced their record.
Interesting.
Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was like 2009 or something. And this is where networking and maintaining friendships and just like staying close to the fire if you want to stay warm really comes into play. I toured with Ricky in like 2009, 2010 on Over the Limit tour. It was my first tour with As Blood Runs Black. Literally 10 years later, Spencer, needs a guitar player and is asking all the band members, does anyone know anyone who's a good guitar player? And Ricky throws my name in the hat first. Spencer reaches out to me on Instagram, and I'm getting flown out to Salem to start rehearsing for tour, like a few weeks after
Just like that.
Just like that. And it's because I proved something to Ricky on that tour, and then the 10 years between then kept relevant enough or kept meeting requirements or living.
Did you guys stay friends?
We were friends, but we weren't like
Friends.
kicking it. Like if he was coming into town, yeah. Like I didn't like go to shows if he was around.
Not capital F, friends.
We were what I call homies.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? We're and like now we're fucking best buds. Like I love that guy to death. But that's because we spend months out of the year together on the road. But joining a band with a bunch of people you don't know, you're a wild card entering like a preconceived, balanced homeostasis. Like everything is as it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And I'm walking into a situation like I said, the wild card. Hopefully, like I don't bring in too much temperature or heat and then fuck up everything and then kill everything, or like I don't fuck it up with my energy or whatever, right? So I came in to, again, it's the same thing that I do in a session. I came to serve the role that I was offered. And that role has constantly been evolving because of my, I guess, willingness to do the work, I think is really what it is.
So one thing I've noticed is that a lot of my most productive relationships with people in the business are relationships that go years and years back. Like the biggest opportunities I've had for the most part, the biggest gigs I've gotten, the biggest shit for the most part has been stuff that took a long time to develop. And I mean years, maybe a decade, maybe more. Like it's very rarely people that I just met. Sometimes, but very rarely.
Do you think it's because the size of the opportunity can only be met with 10 years of proof?
Yes, I think that's a big part of it, actually.
Yeah.
So I think that in some ways, for the most part, when you're a lot younger, you're just not going to have ammunition to even get the serious attention of heavy hitters, other than like, yeah, maybe they want to sign your band or something.
Sure.
Which is cool, but that's still, regardless of what anybody thinks, you're still not on an even playing field at all.
That's a foot in the door.
It's a foot in the door. What I mean is even playing field type scenarios where we're like working together on something, or where it's not like an exploitative situation. Like when you're a young band, first of all, I think there's nothing wrong with that, but you got to pay your dues. But I'm just saying it's not the same thing. And yes, I think the size of the opportunity determines the access, but also, yeah, you're right. Having a decade to prove yourself does a lot. I think that just having staying power keeps doors open for you, because if they didn't take you seriously year 1 or 2 or 3, if you're still around 15 years later, they know that something had to go right.
Or you're just fucking crazy.
Or both.
Like, yeah, as you're sitting here saying this, I'm looking back at like all these friends that I've made over the course of, decade plus of touring. And some of them are like the most amazing drummers, or like no vocalist is better than this guy. But now he works at a hardware store and has 2 kids. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, what is different in me that allowed me to like keep on the path? And it's not being better or smarter. It's literally being dumber and crazier. It's like literally
more obsessed.
Sure. But like there's a cognitive dissonance in that. It's like in knowing I'm going to put 10 years into this, knowing that half the people don't get shit. And if at the end of this 10 years I get something, it might be like music money, which is nothing. Like do you know what I'm saying, kind of?
Yeah, so it's the kind of thing where it's really weird because, for instance, if I had a kid, which I don't, and I don't want any, but if I did, and they said that they wanted to be like a rock star or something, I would have to fight myself very hard not to tell them that it's a stupid fucking idea and don't do it. Just don't, because the odds are so, like rock star, anything like that. It's such a dumb thing to try to do because it pretty much doesn't ever work. The fact that we know people that it's worked for, or becoming a successful producer, successful entrepreneur, whatever, any of those types of things, we are kind of in a bubble because we're surrounded by the very few people who have done it. And I think also people who listen to this kind of podcast or watch Nail the Mix, they also get kind of wowed by that bubble. And so they start to think that there's more people who have pulled it off than there actually are. You're getting a very bad sample size of the entire population.
Yeah.
You can get kind of persuaded by it and tricked into thinking that it's way more, way more common than it actually is. In reality, it's super uncommon and it's close to impossible. And
it is. It absolutely
is. And so
is.
But it's not a stupidity thing either. I know what you mean, but at the same time, the people I know who have stuck around and have done cool shit are generally not idiots.
Yes, I absolutely agree I 100% agree with you, but like in myself, I feel this like, hold my beer, watch this in doing the thing.
I think it's risk tolerance.
Yeah, that's really what it is. It's that, and that's the cognitive dissonance I'm talking about. It's like, I know, and I knew this, I got an independent study out of high school. My mom was at this point diagnosed with brain cancer and my band was starting to tour. So I had 2 reasons to get on the road. And I knew that I had at least a 10-year runway before I'd be able to turn it into fucking anything, while I simultaneously had to lie to my dad that this is going great. This is awesome. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm going to be doing this forever. And I'm sitting there in my mind knowing, like, you are eating shit for 10 years. And that's fine with me because of that, like, hold my beer, watch this thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The guy who says, hold my beer, watch this, and does like a flip off of a cliff, I'm impressed by that guy. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't do it. I'm afraid of that shit. But there's something like endearing about that. And I think that's the thing that people want to stay close to. And I think there's also something really cool about you opening the doors and letting people surround themselves and that be accessible to them. Because I'm sure you're aware of the whole notion of like the 5 people you surround yourself with is like who you become bullshit. I think that's really what it is.
It's not bullshit.
It's not. But I you probably caught the pattern. I tend to downplay anything that's helpful for me because I always find it easier to talk about.
Well, I think a lot of people tend to talk shit about those kinds of ideas, but they're wrong.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, that's fair. And I will take accountability for that, dude. I'm so fucking wrong. But doesn't mean it doesn't feel funny to talk about.
It does feel kind of funny to talk about.
It does.
So I've pretty much gotten over it, but I understand. Especially in the music world, talking about that kind of stuff can be kind of weird. So I get it. But really, everyone I know who's stuck around thinks about those kinds of things. So it's really not that weird.
It's true, man. And I also see, like, going back on the thing we were talking about before, like the canvas strategy concept. like I sort of see that too as another one of the patterns that for those who have made it through the gauntlet and kind of got on the other side of that line, I feel like that thing, whether they're calling it that or not, I think that's kind of a common thread too. Like
Yeah, for sure.
the willingness to just do the grunt work because you know that if you humble yourself to be around people that you can learn from, you will learn from them. And then you're in the room with them, and then all of a sudden an opportunity happens.
So, real quick, speaking of risk tolerance, I just want to throw this out there. I don't think there's anything wrong with not having a high risk tolerance. So, you're talking about some dude you knew who was the most incredible drummer, but it didn't happen for them because they didn't have the right personality or whatever, meaning they're too risk averse or whatnot. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that the problem is when people don't realize that and then they torture themselves over it.
Absolutely. And I also think that there's something in people taking, I don't want to say taking accountability is good, but when you take it and make it your own and you blame yourself for like not going after your dreams, I think you just sabotage and defeat yourself even more.
I agree.
I am 100% on board with the belief that common sense and common knowledge comes from common people who do common shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go to college, get a good job, make sure you get married by 30. Like that's all shit that people tell you to do. That when I look at their life, I'm depressed for them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Are they depressed though?
I don't give a shit. It's
Fair enough. Well, it's kind of like if you saw yourself in that situation, you'd be miserable.
That's what I'm saying. Like they can be happy and I can be happy that they're happy. But if I look at them and go, oh, they made the choice that I could have made and this is where they ended up, how would I feel if I was there? It'd be terrible. So like this is something that I talk about with my students a lot. And interestingly enough, since joining Ice 9, there's this like new influx of young students who are like 15, 16, 17, getting ready to leave high school, go to college, and like, should I do what my parents say or should I like commit to this band thing? And it becomes such a struggle because for me, you had mentioned this plan B thing before. My plan A, or you know what? My plan is just to have a guitar in my hands. So all of my plan A through Z are all in line with that. Whatever the fuck I end up doing, there's a guitar in my hands. So I'm satisfied. And it just so happened that in doing 10 plus years, I was like 9.5 years with this Blood Runs Black and touring and loving it and then learning to hate it and learning to just deal with it. My priorities shifted to I love teaching. I love sharing my knowledge and my love for the guitar and seeing other people like plant that seed in themselves and take it somewhere. So for me, there's something really, really just liberating in the fact that like doing you pulls you outside of living up to other people's shit. I don't really know what it is I'm trying to say with that, but that was a really big part of me kind of taking the move and stepping outside of As Blood Runs Black. But yeah, man.
Well, you're being true to yourself. I think that's kind of what matters in the whole equation. Whether you're risk averse or not risk averse or would be depressed with a normal life or would feel good with a normal life, it doesn't really matter as long as you're true to yourself about whatever it is. Because I do know people who have that normal life you're talking about that would make me want to kill myself, but
They're happy.
They're very happy with that, and I don't think they're faking it.
No.
I really don't think they're faking it. And they'll say things like, I wish I did something cool like you. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't actually mean that. And I don't think they actually mean that. I just think grass is always greener. But as long as you're staying true to yourself, that's what makes the difference. That's what won't grind you. The thing that I've noticed is the people who are the most miserable are the ones who really wanted to take the risk, but were just pussies.
Yeah, dude.
Or the other way around, where really they just wanted security, but for some egotistical reason or some weird shit they had to prove, they took half-assed risks and it didn't work out because they weren't committed enough to the risk because it wasn't really in their character to take that kind of risk.
Right. And this is what I was kind of saying before about the accountability thing is I don't blame the person who didn't take the risk because
I don't either.
Because the person who didn't take the risk probably subscribed to common knowledge from their parents and common sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe they don't want it though.
Or purely they don't want it for sure. Yeah. But I definitely think that there's something in the whole discussion of like common sense. Like
I agree with you.
The shit that everyone's parents listening to this is probably telling them, there's a subconscious thing that they're like, yeah, that's why I'm listening to this podcast, because this is not common sense, and these aren't common people who do the common shit. This is anything but that. And I think you opening the door, and this is what I want to do, this is the whole Canvas strategy thing, opening the door and letting people in on that, and letting people like know that it not only is possible, but in us discussing how fucked and challenging it really is, so that they know it's not, rainbows and butterflies. It's a lot of blood. It's a lot of fucking pop tires and canned soup, dude.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff. And then also, at the end of the day, if you want to do something really, really cool, you kind of have to accept the fact that there's no set path, really, ever.
Yes.
Even if you know that, like, being in a band, there's some things that bands do, like they go on tour, they put out records. But really, that's kind of where the similarities end, in a way, because to really stand out, you pretty much have to do something that hasn't been invented yet, kind of like you guys are doing. And it's the same.
All bands wear makeup, though. Every band that I know. I'm just kidding. It's fucking ridiculous.
No, I definitely think you guys are doing your own thing, but it's uncharted territory no matter what, whether you're a producer, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a musician. And so when there's uncharted territory, there's no way that it could possibly be part of the common knowledge. It doesn't go together. It can't be common knowledge and also uncharted territory. And in order to do something new, it has to be uncharted territory. It's by definition of being creative, creating something that means it didn't exist before.
Right.
So it would be impossible for it to be part of common knowledge. You just got to be okay with that.
Right. And on the risk tolerance thing, if you aren't willing to whole ass this thing, if you're going to half ass it and like maybe also go to college to get like a communications degree, you're fucking yourself. And it's not because you shouldn't get a communications degree. It's that the people, in my opinion, and you could totally disagree, I'm sure everyone listening to this will have their own opinion, but it's a full-blown, undying commitment that I think allows you to like get past that 10-layer gauntlet to be that one dude at the end of the line who made it somehow.
Well, you're going up against people who will go that hard. That's part of it too.
That's the thing. At the end of that, you're now in a category with all the people who have done that too. And then there's, without you even knowing it, there's another level that you have to get through to like get to the next phase, and it doesn't really end. And that, in my, again, unprofessional opinion, I think is like the levels of a career. Like a band being at a certain level is their willingness to or unwillingness to do X, Y, and Z to get beyond that. It's really interesting, man. This is a topic I have not discussed with anyone. So I'm really enjoying this, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't just talk about this shit all the time?
Well, yeah, dude, because you're a URM podcast.
Yeah, so this doesn't come up like in interviews and stuff? I don't consider this an interview, by the way.
No, this is a hangout.
Sometimes I'll invite people on and be like happy to do the interview, and I'll feel insulted that they said that. It's just an ego thing.
Yeah.
But I'm like half kidding about this doesn't come up in interviews, but at the same time I'm actually curious. It doesn't, does it?
No, not really, dude. Like the inner workings is not really a discussion. And also like I don't even know what this topic is. It's like the mentality that goes into it. I mean, honestly, this is a topic and these are discussions that I have in like my podcast. That's what Mindframe is about. But these aren't topics that I have casually. And dude, you've managed to make this feel very casual. So fuck yeah.
It is casual.
It totally is. And I really, really appreciate that because they are not always casual.
So question about interviews. Do you feel like that's kind of a dated, shitty format? I think it is, because we've gotten past the point of needing information out of people, because we can so easily look it up that, like, who even needs that? There's pretty much just reciting information that you can easily find. Like, who even has time for that shit anymore? Yeah,
it sort of feels like the newspaper when you could listen to a radio show or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like to me, this is the best format of getting to know the background and history of someone. And when it's an interview that's either cut and dry and they're like, what's your favorite song on the new record? Or it's like a written one where you're beholden to like, I got an hour to type up this bullshit. Let's see what I can get in. You know what I mean? It's It's not very real and conducive.
This is our heaviest music yet. We went to the deepest, darkest place we have ever been before.
Yes, it is so heavy.
The double bass is fast. The guitars are chugging.
He screams loud. It's not going to be valuable to fucking anyone. And truth be told, I don't read them. I don't think
anybody does.
Yeah, I'll comb through and look for a question that I'm interested in and then like skim the answer. And I'm like, all right, this guy's he's responding like it's a fucking journal entry. Like I'm not interested in that.
It's because it's not 1998.
Yeah, dude, I want it to be candid and casual, and I want to feel like I'm getting to know someone differently versus being delivered a script, right?
Yeah, and also if you follow people who do interviews and do press, if you watch or listen to interviews or read from the same time period, it's all canned shit because they have to do 200 of these. And the interviewers are asking them the same questions over and over and over again. There's no way that format can possibly be interesting because it, by definition, isn't interesting.
I mean, I think we're living proof of the future, man. Like, there's a reason why podcasts are so fucking popular right now. They're exciting. They're different. They're exposing of, I mean, just like us having the facial interaction of being able to like actually see each other, which leads to like a different type of response. Like that shit is just can't be had in an interview. And even if it does, interviewer that has his like shitty TV's company like around the microphone, he's pretending to be someone.
Yeah, it's like you're not Howard Stern, dude.
Yeah, everyone's pretending in that situation. So like, I fucking totally agree with you, man. Totally agree. And with Ice Nine specifically, it's a particular type of questions that we get all the fucking time. So like, I'm over it, dude. Like the amount of times that I've responded that my favorite horror film is Austin Powers 3 is beyond me.
So the question is, okay, so a band that's as big as you guys, who has to do a ton of press, but you're sitting here kind of knowing that interviews aren't what they used to be, but you can't not do them. Like, how do you make that work in your mind? Or how does the team make that work? It's just a necessary evil?
It's absolutely a necessary evil, and we have fun, dude. Something that happened to Ice Nine Kills when me and Joe joined the band, Joe and I are fucking goofball idiots. Like, nothing we do is serious. Whenever we're off stage, we're joking. If you watch videos of us on stage, half the show, he and I are fucking with each other or like dancing stupid, or I'm kicking him in the nuts when he's playing. Like, we're always messing around. So I think there's this certain quality of we are doing it tongue-in-cheek. Everything we say is tongue-in-cheek. We will look at each other and laugh about a response and then like communicate with each other about that. Like, we make it super real and like a candid experience. We don't have preloaded bullshit. Spencer will try to do that, and then Joe and I will jump in and fuck him up, and then we start laughing. You know what I mean? And there was one instance actually where one time that I didn't go on a tour with Ice Nine Kills, they did a cruise. Oh, Spencer's here right now. That's funny as fuck. So because we're doing this, they're gonna go in the upstairs studio to do some vocals right now. But we were on a tour, and apparently, and I get really, really, really boat sick. That's why I couldn't do the tour. I would have been spewing 24/7. Like, would have been terrible.
Dramamine doesn't help?
Oh, dude,
we're way beyond that.
I could mainline that shit and it wouldn't do anything.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm just a lost cause. But effectively, like, a bunch of dumb questions were asked, and like Ricky and Pat and Joe would answer funny. And apparently, I just heard about this after the fact, but Spencer was like not stoked on that. He's like, we gotta
be serious.
Gotta be serious.
Serious band. Gotta be serious.
Gotta talk about murder and shit, you know. But he got over it quick because if anyone thought that we take this shit serious when we go on stage and dress like a fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a bunch of makeup, if I thought I was cool doing that, no one would give a shit, dude. Like, we know it. We know it's funny.
If people know that Cannibal Corpse are just doing it for fun with their content, then pretty much everybody should realize that metal is just for fun. That's
the thing. Like, and that's a newer thing for me, man. When I was in As Blood Runs Black, a lot of my angst and anger was like, this needs to be better. Like, I know we could write better music. And, you know, out of fear of being canceled, I'm going to modulate the words a little bit. But I would submit songs to my band, and they would be, you know, what's a word I could use? Too cool. They would be literally too cool, not blank enough for the band.
Yep.
Whatever the fuck word you want to use that, you know, I can't say.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, that was really disheartening, man, for me to be like, oh, like this is good and we can't use it because of that. Like this is cool and you want it to be less cool to be on the record. And that just like didn't jive with me because I was there to like express myself, put the best form of myself out there, and frankly, not serve the band. I was there to serve myself. And that created a lot of internal strife for me.
Well, you just had to get into a situation where serving the band is serving yourself, basically.
Yes. And the ABRB situation was very, you know, it was similar to a certain degree with Ice Nine, with it being like a visionary, like As Blood Runs Black was Lech, the drummer. Everything was basically filtered through him. And it got to a point where he was managing my band, Fallen Figure, so he trusted my writing. So the next records that I did with them, I did 2 records with them, I wrote like 80% of all the music that came out when I was in the band because Lech trusted me. But what nobody knows is that for all those records, I submitted like 50 plus songs. And then 8 of the 10 songs on the record are mine. But no one knows the other 42, you know? And that thing, granted, I don't give a shit. It's not something that I need to say or boast about because it doesn't matter. That's just a part of the job. Me sitting there and submitting papers to be, you know, graded as a passing grade or not was detrimental to my confidence and happiness and contentment being there. And it sort of went to make it a kind of toxic situation for me. So like being in a situation where we know it's fun, we do shit for a crowd, you know, like we're not writing songs for other people, we're writing them for ourselves, but we know if we're having fun, if we're laughing when we're doing it, then we know it's good.
Question for you though. Don't you think that one of the skills that you should develop as a musician who's in a band or a producer or whatever is the ability to have your shit cut and not let it get toxic?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I was saying about like me having shifted my headspace being an Ice Nine to where like I don't take it too seriously.
Got it. So you evolved your like you matured basically to a place where you were cool with that because it's really important to be able to do that.
Yeah, because being told that this is really good, dude, and then that like goes and plays into my ego, and then they're like, but we can't use it because of that. And then I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden I'm confused, like I can't look at you in the eye because what you say doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? It just creates this environment that was really fucked up for me for many reasons.
It sounds to me though, like in your current band, no one would say, that's too good, we can't use it. However,
no.
The first thing you talked about, or one of the first things, was putting all this work into that song with all the tempo changes and it just not being right for Spencer. So obviously you have to be able to have your shit not get accepted. That's part of the gig.
It's a huge part of it. And it's also like taking those hits with a smile, you know, and being able to just be like, being problem focused and then immediately solution focused. So like if I'm being told that this isn't going to work, I could be like, fuck, dude, like I just spent the whole day putting that together. Like what does he even want? He can't even explain what he wants. Like what am I supposed to do? Like I could totally let that happen and just spiral and like my thoughts turn to feelings and then I have beliefs about the situation and then all the sessions suck after that because I believe XYZ. Or I could shift it to be like, all right, well, what do you want? Like, what could I do right now that would make this what you want? And it's really just a matter of like me reformulating the question several times over, reiterating it how many times as I need to get whatever answer I need to where I get some type of ingredient.
Yeah, man, honestly, I think that, you know, that feeling of I just worked all day on this and then it's not right could be frustrating. I mean, it is, but at the same time, if you didn't go through that, you probably wouldn't get to the point where that next tweak that makes the difference would come from. So instead of letting it be frustrating, just look at it as one of the building blocks or another step in the right direction.
That is, quite frankly, the shift that happened with my wiring in my head.
It's hard, though. Easier said than done.
Oh, big time, dude. But it's really a matter of like so many things wouldn't happen if everything before it wasn't exactly the way it was. Like there's this
Exactly.
Your current situation is the sum of every decision and indecision you've ever made. What the fuck? What kind of crazy sentence is that? Like that's an insane thing to recognize,
truth.
but it's crazy truth. And I think that's really just become a huge part of how I operate now.
Was the shift quick?
No, dude. It actually occurred.
I mean, okay, I know that you're talking about one project that was 10 years ago versus a project that's now and the difference. But what I mean is it something where like you made the shift overnight after about 10 years of being frustrated?
I actually do think that occurred. And this could be a whole other huge fucking discussion you and I have. But yeah, dude, like presence was a really big part of it for me. Like learning how to just like stop getting consumed with like worrying about the future or being bummed about the past. Like I know it's, again, more foofy shit that we're going to both go, nah, but it's good. It's not foofy.
It's not foofy.
It's not foofy, but we know it's foofy, but we'll both admit it's not.
Slayer's not foofy.
You're right. Slayer's, but Cannibal Corpse is, apparently, you just said.
No, they just don't actually believe in zombies.
Right.
And they didn't actually want to kill women. They just wrote about serial killers.
It's very ironic, the similarities that I see between this band and that topic-wise.
That's why I brought them up.
It's very ironic, dude. The amount of times that there's just like hilarious murder jokes made that shouldn't land but do is just like,
Because it's
too
not
much.
serious.
It's not serious at all, but like what audience would murder jokes land on? Ice Nine Kills, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Ice
weird.
Nine Kills, Cannibal Corpse, like
Yeah.
metal fans.
Metal fans, that's fair. It's fair. Spot on. After leaving As Blood Runs Black, I left As Blood Runs Black because my mom's brain tumor came back for the third time and we were given like an expiration date. And I'm like, I had just toured through 9 years of her having brain cancer. And when I'm being told that she has less than a few months to live, I'm not going to be on tour for that, right? So
Fair
I
enough.
left the band, stayed at home to help take care of her and be her caregiver. And it forced me to see myself, man. It forced me to feel everything and not be like consumed with the day-to-day tasks of tour. Like you don't get to ever have a moment for yourself on tour. And when you do, it's when you're taking that shit and then someone knocks on the door. Or, you know what I mean? Like it's so rare.
Must have given you some perspective.
Oh, certainly, man. And it really, really just forced me into making friends with myself and not, like the second I got off of tour and I had time with myself, I realized that I had made myself into an enemy, right?
Making friends with yourself, what's that like?
I'm working on it, man. But I over the course of those years and As Blood Runs Black, I had eroded the trust in myself, my confidence, my belief in like, am I a musician or am I just good at like filling the role? Because that's what I've been doing for so long. Like it forces all these questions. And I went on this like quest to just figure my shit out. And at this point in time, I found this book. Eckhart Tolle is the author. It's this book called A New Earth. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of him.
Dude, as foofy as it fucking gets, man. As foofy as it gets. But changed my life and immediately gave me some semblance of like understanding and acceptance and peace with the situation. And I immediately, turned the page and started writing my first instrumental record. And then that spiraled into a second one and on and on.
Somehow it triggered a renewed sense of purpose.
Yes, it basically gave me insight into why I do what I do and how to like realign with why I need to do that. And that was like the impetus to kick me into overgear or overdrive and start to, again, align with just shit that is. Like, I think I said that before, like not getting pissed at a situation and just like, okay, that's what it is. That was a very big part of those studies that I did. And I read that book every other day. Like it's the type of thing where you just open up a random page and you can read a paragraph and walk away with something. And somehow it's the type of book that whatever random page you open on is exactly what you needed to see. It's a super weird, you're either going to read it and be into it or you're going to be like, this is bullshit. But either way, I got something out of it and it really helped me move forward and change the way that I operate. Helped me with my reactivity and just kind of like just being there instead of, how do I say this? helped me focus on being instead of doing, as lame as that's gonna sound. It really was just that, man. It allowed me to just like chill and be okay with like, all right, I'm not somewhere else in the world every day playing to like 1,000 new people that I've never met. I'm here spoon feeding soup into my mom's mouth. You know, it's like a very big difference.
Like, how did you make the shift in, I guess, being future minded without being, I guess, future obsessed? I don't know what the right way to put it is, because obviously you got to have big plans, right? You have to think ahead. You kind of got to play 3D chess to make it through life. But at the same time, like you're saying, if you over focus on that, then you're going to lose the moment, and then you probably won't achieve your goals anyways. But it's a hard thing to do because you're kind of asking your brain to go in two completely different directions. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I'm trying to think of a simple way to say this.
What about the complex way to say it?
If I am walking across the room to get a book, my primary purpose is to walk. My secondary purpose is to get the book. But my brain tells me, get the book, motherfucker, instead of just like being there to walk. And that's just like the outcome of doing the thing. So by focusing on the thing and doing the thing well, you just get there.
Yeah, but how do you know you're going in the right direction to get that book?
This is very metaphysical bullshit now that we're talking about.
Well, I mean, if you want to get the book, if you just walk and you make that your primary purpose, then who the hell knows where you're going to end up?
If your primary purpose is to walk as good as you can in a straight line directly towards that book, you're going to get to that book, I guess, is sort of my thought. So, and dude, this is all just like different perspectives and how you approach and view life. But for me, aligning with like what I want right now and working from right now versus I want safety, happiness, and security in the future because of the anxiousness and fear I felt in my past when I didn't have that.
That makes sense.
That's a completely different, I'll get there. I'll be moving in the direction, right? But like how I get there might be different. The way I feel about it might be different. I certainly won't enjoy my left foot going in front of my right foot. I don't know. It's a small shift, and it's very, very silly if you really look at it, and you can ask these logical questions you're asking, and it's like, it's a conversation to have. But it comes down to just a way of operating, I guess. Like I could absolutely, and I bounce back and forth all the time, man.
Maybe that's key, is bouncing back and forth.
Yeah. Certainly, dude. Like if you live like an enlightened monk, good luck paying your taxes, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that is the answer, is being able to shift back and forth. I wonder, does that help you play on stage at all? Like being able to change your focus? So I feel like when people overthink what they're about to play, like I guess being too future-minded, that's when they start to make mistakes and trip themselves up.
Yeah, dude, one of my biggest solutions to that problem is instead of thinking about the thing as it's happening, right before it happens, just smile. And for some fucking reason, it just filters whatever anxiety is about to come through, and I don't hit that wall. Or my fingers don't decide to like fuck me and do something
Freeze
else.
up.
Yeah, it's a very
Forget
it's a very
what
weird
they're
thing.
doing.
And honestly, dude, I feel like I'm just kind of like, it's because I know I'm anxious about the thing, and I like kind of just like smile at the thought instead of getting mad at the thought or being like, yeah, you're right, this part's hard. Like I just kind of, yeah, here it comes, cool. And I don't know what it is, man. But for me, that's been a very huge part because I used to deal with a lot of stage anxiety too.
When did you start thinking like this?
Kind of around what I'm saying, kind of around when I left As Blood Runs Black to take care of my mom, and I was forced to like shovel dirt all the time, proverbially speaking. I mean, it wasn't like exactly that, but that's what it felt like to me. So it's sort of like going back to like living minimally and doing like menial tasks and finding ways to just like be there and enjoy it. And it allowed me to learn to do that, to where I evolved mentally and physically enough to where like whatever my reputation might have been at the end of As Blood Runs Black changed to a certain degree to where like I was once again for some reason perceived as like a viable, relevant option for a band that's really fucking relevant. I don't know how that happened, but there's definitely something in the like the perspective shift. And again, I wouldn't say it was exactly overnight, but it was literally, I'm there helping my mom, and I found this book in her library that she's never read. And for some reason, and like one of the first things it says on the book is like, a lot of people find this book because it just stumbles into their life for no reason. And it's just like a foofy as shit, my man. It's just foof.
So then question, you develop this skill while you're not touring, not having the chance to actually see if you developed it or not. So when you finally did get back into it, and you had to play that first show, was there any fear?
There's some other things that happened between that I feel like I should mention, because it wasn't directly that book. That book cleared me of my it absolved me of how I felt about shit, and I was able to move forward and redesign whatever I was doing. And that's when I shifted my gear of oh, I'm not touring musician guy. I'm a teacher. I help people. That's what I do. So I started focusing on that, and that's when opportunities arise, and I aligned with this quote unquote human. I don't know what he is even. This is my ex-business partner forever, Fret. Yeah.
Humanoid.
Yeah, humanoid shape. I don't know what he is.
Life form.
Some life form, some biological thing. Actually, I don't even fucking know. But it bubbled into my life that was going on, to where I shifted to that. I moved from Los Angeles to get a house with him in Austin, Texas, fully 100% obsessive committed, day in, day out working on this shit. Or I was. The amount of work, the amount of expectation, the amount of goal preparation and target planning and all the shit that went into it fucked me up. It literally made me, I don't want to use the word insane. It's the kind of disrespectful to anyone who actually feels that way, but it drove me fucking nuts. And I actually started, for the first time, and let me take this back. I had my first anxiety attack the day my mom died. I tried to leave my house to go on a drive, and I blacked out when I was driving. And I was like, what the fuck was that? And I was terrified, didn't know what it was, moved to Texas a year later, whatever, moving on. Things are starting to crumble with the company, and I start having these panic attacks, dude. I would try to go in my car to get groceries, and I'd black out and find myself on the floor in fetal position. Just what the fuck is going on? And then I started having ridiculously suicidal thoughts, insanely depressed. And you could say well, what about that really good book, brother? What about that book you like so much? And it's I lost sight of shit because I was focused on building something for the future and focused on how I was slighted the day before, right?
Fair enough.
So it spiraled into this thing where I felt and this also plays back into just childhood shit of just abandonment problems and whatever the fuck, but just feeling my dude that I trusted was abandoning me, betraying me. And this is shit that I've unpacked more recently, but I think it spiraled into me just not being able to exist, dude.
Well, it sounds to me like it's probably a combination of things going on at the same time, mom dying, the band not working out the way you wanted it to, business not working out the way you wanted it to. I think there's a limited amount of hits that a person can take without semi-cracking and having to kind of reset. So sounds to me like not just one thing, but multiple things back to back to back.
Certainly a series of things that all had a compound effect. But it got to a point, man, where I was planning the end, dude. It was bad. And this is at a point when I had the opportunity to renew for health insurance.
Well, that could be one way that planning for the future is bad.
Yeah, that's when you should be in the now, my dude.
Yeah.
It was fucked, dude. And it's a place that I never want to be in again, and it's a place that I know I won't be in again. And fuck. So I was in a situation where it was I was having crazy suicidal thoughts, and I needed to reach out to find therapy because I needed to fucking talk to someone. And I needed to get health insurance to do so. And the health marketplace had some anomalous bullshit to where all of my paperwork just vanished into their system. And I waited 6 months to get a response from them if I could get a therapist, right? And I'm in this time period, cool healthcare system, you might be the reason I kill myself. So I felt again, betrayed and feeling I can't rely on anyone else other than myself. Just I stumbled on that book, in my mom's library, as I'm in her room helping feed her, I stumbled on this shit called Wim Hof. And I know Matt Halpern talked to you about it.
Oh yeah, I do it.
And I credit that shit with quite literally saving my life. Within 3 days of committing to it and doing like the multiple sets of 3 in a day, the cold shower, the mindset training, within 3 days of doing that, like it stopped. I was present. And then beyond that, I had some crazy shit happen to me. As far as if people look into the Wim Hof stuff, which I'm sure they have because you've spoken about it, you could find that DMT can be accessed through your brain by doing the Wim Hof method. I went to some fucking places and heard some things, dude. It was nuts. And I had one instance where the next day, stopped smoking weed, stopped eating like shit, started working out for hours a day. And it was like that for 6 months straight. And it was like something just switched in me. Like I was just told I didn't need weed anymore. You need to start taking care of yourself. You need to start preparing for something.
Just a switch got flipped.
I was a switch that God flipped, man. And all of a sudden, I was again prepped to be the right person in the right place at the right time. 3 days before my birthday on February 19th, Spencer shoots me a text or an Instagram message. It's even weirder than that. He adds me on Instagram. I screenshot it, send it to my girlfriend. I go, this is weird. Ironically, to peel it back a little bit more, Ice Nine Kills is the sole obsession of my ex-business partner's girlfriend. Her favorite band in the world is Ice Nine Kills. I'm now a poster on her fucking wall. Yeah, I'm now a poster on her wall, so it feels pretty good.
That sounds pretty appropriate.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking ironic. But basically, like, all this shit happened to me. I was like at the end, and I started to build myself back up. And all of a sudden, like the one band that was always like annoying to me and dangled in front of me because it was her band was offered to me to join. It just felt like, what the fuck opportunities are coming my way? Why do these things bubble up when I need them? What is going on here? And all the shit shifted and switched in my mind, like I said, to put me in a place to where instead of getting that message and reacting like I would have, like, nah, I shouldn't tour. And this was at a point where I was like just a couple months into like not having blackouts. And I still hadn't had the balls to like leave my house for any extended period of time. A grocery store visit was like the extent of it, right? And he's like, yo, you want to like go on like a 3-month tour?
Fuck it.
It's like, fuck. And that's what I said. I was like, fuck it. I'm doing the work. I'm prepping for this. This is what I do. This is what I focus on. And if I don't live up to this now, I will never know what could have been. And like, it's kind of the thing that we were talking about before, the risk tolerance thing. I was at a point where I didn't have tolerance. Shouldn't have risked it. Just fucking did it just to see, you know? It's a weird thing.
Well, I mean, why shouldn't you have?
That's exactly what I thought. Like, and worst case, dude. And it's sort of fucked for me to even say this, man, but like I grew up with the Ghost Inside guys. Like I played tons of local shows with them. Leaving as Blood Runs Black and then them going through what they went through, I was like, holy fuck, dude. Like I am never getting in a bus, a van again. Like I just dodged every fucking bullet. And then I'm like, I have anxiety about being in buses, dude.
Except for your own?
Yeah, I do not appreciate the the black box of doom that you just like trust. Hope your bus driver knows what he's doing.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to stop, actually.
It's gnarly. It eats away at you when you try to sleep, right?
Yeah. The older you get while you're doing it, the more dangerous you realize it is. And you just have to kind of be cool with it because it is what it is.
That shit all leads to that cognitive dissonance shit that I was mentioning about before, which to me erodes the trust in myself. I know I shouldn't do it. I know it's not safe, but fuck it. I'll smoke enough to not care. Let's go. Like, it's a little bit crazy, and I know that's the case. And I feel like that's what I was saying before. Like the people who get this far got the same kind of crazy, and it's not mental hospital kind. It's like, go get them crazy. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, but it does take a unique set of circumstance combined with a unique chemistry, I think.
Sure. And on the chemistry thing, dude, the only reason why I feel like I had a flip switched is because of what Wim Hof can do as far as brain chemistry goes. I heard you talking about some of those specific things, right?
Yeah, definitely.
To me, like that's what occurred. I don't think I had like God visit me or some shit. I think I literally just like balanced the chemicals in my brain.
You visited yourself.
I visited my fucking self, dude. That's all it was. I went inside instead of outside, and instead of trying to hide from myself, I went in. And I think that's the only reason I made those switches. And it's like, would not be here without music, would not be here without Wim Hof. This is going to sound lame. Would not be here had I not stumbled on you on metal injection, or metal sucks, dude. Like, it's all the same shit. Like, the small stumblings on things lead to so much. You never know what it's really going to do. The seeds that are planted, right? Thank you for that, by the way. I mean it, man.
Whatever the hell I did, you're welcome. I was going to say that flipping the switch is a very, very real thing, because I've done that too. And it's man, I don't know how to say it other than I know people get pissed when I say anyone can do it. So maybe not anyone can do it, but it really is as simple as doing it. And it's so weird that it can take so much time before you flip the switch. But once you've actually done it and you realize that all it comes down to is I'm approaching things differently and I'm taking different actions, it really is that simple. Made me wonder why I didn't do it earlier, or what the hell was wrong with me. Maybe you just have to get to that point.
Relationships with yourself are so fucking weird, dude. It's ongoing and always changing, and like it's so easy to like just judge something that you did or didn't do. I stumbled on this book a long time ago called The Slight Edge. Have you ever heard of it before?
Nope.
Really, really interesting concept that's like so fucking simple that you don't even need to read the book. It's basically the idea that like one good decision leads to another good decision, which leads to another good decision. And it creates an upward slope towards what you maybe want, as where a bad decision leads to more bad decisions, etc. So it's like the idea of just whenever a decision or an opportunity comes your way, like I literally just say slight edge in my mind, and it forces me to do kind of the one that I'm afraid of, kind of just embrace the one that I know is like the more challenging one. It's also one of those perspective shifts that's really helped me. I'm a big proponent of self-development because I've always had internal issues with myself and not ever felt like I could go to anyone for that shit. I've done therapy my whole fucking life, dude, and I have therapists who quit afterwards because I tear them apart so hard. Like it's a problem that I have, and I do what I can for myself to get over it. And I think there's something really, really powerful in taking control of that shit yourself, but also more powerful in giving it up and asking for help. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I mean, asking for help, there's nothing wrong with it. And sometimes you do need help, but all it is help. Like, you're going to be the one that makes the difference in the end. I mean, that's why it's called help.
Exactly. It's a two-person job, right?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people who don't flip the switch don't take responsibility. I mean, look, I'm not talking about people who, I guess, have mental health issues that are so far beyond being able to take control of themselves. Like, you know, obviously that exists, and I'm not talking about that. But outside of that, at the end of the day, it is on you. I mean, you should get help if you need help, but don't forget that it's on you at the end of the day. The end, basically.
Yeah, it truly is, dude. And I also think I don't want to like go the whole like AA route, but there's something about like hitting your rock bottom that allows you to like just get in the fucking driver's seat.
Oh, it just gives you perspective. Nothing else to lose.
Yeah, and I think I really think that's what it is. And it's like hearing that might make someone be like, oh, I should just get really shit-faced. The same way that someone hearing the best music comes from pain. It's like, dude, fuck off. Fuck off with that. Like, all of those notions, I think, are really, really challenging for the normal person who's just talented. Like, they don't need to be a pained artist, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, like, I can remember myself being in a situation. Was it 10th grade, going into 11th grade? This was right before I went on independent study. Dude, I weighed 365 pounds. I was obese. I was actually obese. And I was going to laparoscopic surgeons to like figure out what was going on. I was like, I had a hiatal hernia, so I had insane like acid reflux problems, and they were gonna like, let's take your intestines and tie them up around the top of your stomach so that you have a hiatal sphincter so that food doesn't come up again. And I'm like, dude, I'm 17. Like, you do this shit for 50-year-old alcoholics. Like, what?
Or just stop eating like shit.
That's what I'm saying. I get like, this is my prognosis. This is what I have to do unless I take something into my own hands, right? So I did. And I finally took my uncle's advice and tried Xingyi, which is My uncle Stu doesn't really fucking matter, but was in X-Files and Friday the 13th and like Christine and a bunch of like really big horror movies. He also is the best jazz pianist I've ever heard. Do you know Lenny Tristano by any chance?
Nope.
He's like a 1960s, 70s.
And you've suggested a lot of you've suggested a lot of things that I haven't heard of, which is kind of different.
Sweet. Lenny Tristano is like one of the inventors of minor seconds as harmony in jazz piano. Like a very like the Thelonious Monk kind of like almost just sloppy chords and shit, but it's on purpose. Lenny Tristano was also blind and a musical savant and started teaching my uncle when he was 13. So my uncle is like fucking unreal. But he himself was like a really sickly kid. He's dying from multiple sclerosis. It's really fucking sad, but he was always sick as a kid. And when he was like 18 or something like that, stumbled on this Chinese guy in Brooklyn. And this guy just moved to America from China, and he teaches this shit called Xingyi, which is this very ancient internal martial art that's like really undiscussed. I'm sure you've heard of like Tai Chi and shit like that.
Yes.
Tai Chi is one of the 3 internal martial arts of China. Then there's Bagua, which is the level up from that. Tai Chi is for civilians. Bagua was for foot soldiers. And then Xingyi was reserved for generals only. It's like a very fucking gnarly thing. Nutty lineage story, basically. Sifu Kenigong, my teacher's teacher, living in pre-communist China. A general is in hiding in his backyard, and Kenny starts bringing him like rice for dinner because there's just a guy living in his backyard and he doesn't know what the fuck. And as a thank you, this general starts teaching a 13-year-old Xingyi, which is like unheard of. So by the time that Sifu was 19 or 18, he was a master. Starts effectively, dude, this is like one of those hilarious lineage stories that you feel like you hear on any movie, right?
Well, where do you think the people who write movies get those stories from?
Yeah, it's fucking real. This story goes, and this is from my uncle who I trust with my life. Story goes that Sifu's traveling around China to like acquire more knowledge, and he's paying all these masters who end up returning his money and paying to learn from him as like a kid. Whatever the fuck, my uncle learned from this guy. This is the type of shit, and I know, again, everything I talk about is so foofy. This is the type of shit my uncle saw Sifu start fire with his hands. It's like that level of shit. My uncle is now dying of multiple sclerosis, but he's had it for 20 years. When he was first diagnosed with it, they found 7 lesions on his brain, and he went into a Xingyi meditation for a couple days and healed himself, which is medically unheard of. All the lesions healed themselves. So there's like a certain level of what the fuck supernatural shit in this that like really intrigued me as a kid. And I always watched it from afar and was like, nah, it's shit's crazy. And I'm sitting there like 365 fucking pounds, feeling like I'm giving up. Like every time I try to go on a run, I can't because my knees are fucking killing me. Every time I try to diet, I can't because my eating habits control me, right? My uncle convinces me to do Xingyi, and then within 4 months, I was down to like 165.
What did you do?
Nothing like physical like you would think. Like if you asked how much did you sweat, how much calories did you burn, how much this and that, not a lot, dude. It was an energetic thing, and that's what's so fucking nuts to me about it.
I doubt you generated enough energy to offset pizza. You had to do something.
Dude, like this is what's like, I wasn't doing hours a day. I wasn't going on runs. I wasn't exercising all the time. I was doing Xingyi, and I was like,
but you did change your eating habits, right?
At this point, no. At this point, I was eating shittier than ever. I was eating, because my uncle had proven that he could eat whatever the fuck he wants and he's fine, which is insane. But the dude is like a trash can. And for him, it's like it's an energetic thing. And I know that's insane and foofy, but I didn't do enough physically to deserve what happened, but it happened. And at a rate that is like not real. You know what I mean?
Were you taking meth too?
No, but I was smoking ounces of weed a day.
I thought you were about to say no, but I was smoking lots of crack.
No. I kicked that when I was 12. It was tough for me.
Okay, good. I know it's a tough one.
It's tough, dude. And I know how fucking insane this shit sounds.
So you lost like 200 pounds in 4 months?
I lost like 190, 180, some crazy fucking number, dude.
It's kind of insane.
I could show you photos of me. Like, it's nuts.
I want to see those photos.
Yeah, dude, it's sad. And I look at myself from those photos, and I was like, really, I got down to a very, like right now I'm 190 and I was like 165. This was kind of around when I joined as Blood Runs Black. So you could see how, like, I don't want to use the word frail, but like, that's not what I looked like before. You know what I mean? I've definitely settled into whatever
How
the
tall
fuck
are
my
you?
body, 6'1",
Okay.
6.5, whatever the fuck.
165 at 6'1" is
Small.
pretty small.
Yeah, dude. I went from like a 46 pants, 44 to like a 30, 32. It was crazy. It was fucking crazy. But my point with this discussion is not to talk about weight loss, because I give shit about that. It's the idea of like being in a situation where you feel like you can't do something and then being willing to take the risk. That's really why I'm bringing this up. Like, I was like, for years watching my uncle tell me these stories and being like, nah, it's fucking crazy. I'm good, dude. I'm just gonna munch on this za over here. Make it 3 pizzas, whatever. So like, it was a willingness to just like open my eyes and take the risk, and because what the fuck is the worst that could happen, right? Same thing with joining the band. Worst that could happen is I feel the way I felt before. I know what that's like.
Probably not going to be worse than that.
Right. You know, it's like, it all comes down to those things. And then beyond that, also like having been in a situation where I felt helpless and like I was just going to be an obese dude my whole life, didn't have to be that way. Right. And I think that's not everyone's story. A lot of people, like, you know, that's just their body type or something, like it just doesn't work for them. But I don't know.
No, it's not. I don't buy that shit for a second.
Which shit?
That it's just your body type.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, man. And that's where it comes down to like your
Body type plus pizza.
Sure, and even beyond that, it's your mental type fucking your body.
Yep. I think that's probably the strongest factor.
Yeah, like blaming your body is because your brain's too fucking stupid to recognize that it can't point fingers at itself, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's probably a tiny, tiny percentage of people who have an actual physical problem. And again, not talking about them, but
right.
From personal experience here, I know that this is a mental thing more than anything.
Yeah.
Which most of life is at the end of the day. I actually take that thought too. Like, nothing that's going to happen can possibly be worse than what I already went through. So fuck it. I've thought that quite a few times.
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. It's kind of a dark way to look at things, but at the same time, like, it is what I tell myself about a lot of things that I do. It helps because it is accurate.
The overly positive version of that would be like, this will pass kind of shit. But like my version that I prefer is like what you're saying. Like, I've dealt with this before. Fuck it. You know what I mean?
What's going to be worse than what I already went through? Like, for real. Like, how can this possibly hurt me worse?
Because when I approach it like that, the whole notion of like, this will pass, like I'm going to be dealing with it like, all right, well, fucking when? Like, I'm ready for it. But if I'm just there to do it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. So when I like some have been working really, really hard, exercising a lot to the point where it is torture.
I've seen that.
I would consider it self-imposed torture, but it's just one of many things that I tell myself is not as bad as other things I've experienced, and just do it.
Like the pain of like, you know, going up that hill one more time or those steps one more time doesn't even fucking compare to like the pain of getting out of the couch when you were too heavy.
Yeah, it's uncomparable. And I also feel that way about taking risks with business stuff. For instance, how bad is it to actually fail at something? It's not so bad. I've experienced things way worse than having something fall apart or not work out. However, the torture, the self-imposed torture of not having gone through with things, that's way worse than something failing. So I tend to look at risks like, what's the worst that could happen here? I mean, it doesn't work out.
Okay, then I'm back where I was. Cool, let's try it again. And that's one of my favorite things too, is like, if you've ever succeeded in something, then you can replicate that again. Who the fuck cares? Like, if something that you've earned is taken away from you, motherfucker, you've earned that. Make it again. You know, it's not that hard. And then there's also something of like, and this is just like a dumb business quote, but just like failing your way to success is something that I really, really live by. Every time that I fucked up enough to where it was embarrassing, that's where I've learned the biggest lessons. And then I move forward a better person.
Well, yeah, because it means that you risked a lot and went a lot further. So there's a much bigger lesson to be learned there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So real quick, because when's this album going to be done? What are we doing now? The mix, based on what I'm getting at.
Yeah, the only way that I could get kicked out of this band is if I invented a fucking release date.
Let's not invent a release date.
And I'm probably the only one saying this anywhere, and this may get me in trouble, but we're balls deep. The songs are fucking incredible. As an outsider looking in, we're absolutely hitting on everything that you'd expect from Ice Nine, but we're 1,000% going beyond that on every level. The theatrics, way, way above and beyond. The storytelling's above and beyond. I think the songwriting is at least on par. If I was to say anything else, I'd be an egotistical maniac. It's been a fucking blast to do, man. And like I said, I'm putting on my scholastic cap constantly. Even if I'm sitting here like frustrated dealing with anyone in the room, I'm still in the room going like, I've never been in a band with musicians that like give a fuck. So I'm here to just like absorb and experiment and explore and experience, you know?
It's awesome to be in the room, you know, and whatever comes with it.
Yeah, dude, I just want to be in the fucking room. That's really what it is.
It's kind of how I feel about a lot of the stuff that goes down with what I'm doing is, yeah, it can get frustrating at times and people do piss me off. But at the end of the day, like, it's a cool thing to be doing and those frustrations are part of the deal. You can't possibly be doing something high level without someone pissing you off or there being frustrations. Like, just comes with it.
Yeah, and the cool thing that you're doing is you're creating the room. You know, it's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's because it never works out when I'm in somebody else's room. So
right, which is cool, dude. Because like, if I'm completely honest, you know, how many times have I said outsider looking in? You've absolutely created a room and a circle of people, and I'm, you know, stoked as shit that you've opened the door to me and let me in a little bit. It feels like a little bit of a league introduction to me.
Well, it's been a pleasure, dude.
Yeah, man. I really look forward to hanging and talking more with you after this.
Yeah, once you know,
once we can talk, actually,
we can hang out. We can hang out once the world is no longer shut down. But either way, this is a good substitute.
Absolutely, this is social distancing at its fucking finest.
Yeah, for sure.
As far as other shit, for me to just steal the platform and see an opportunity here to talk about myself. The shit that I can talk about is other stuff, if you'd like me to.
Sure.
I mean, like, the stuff that I'm going to be focusing my time on right now, besides the fact that, like, 3 days a week, all day is Ice 9 Day. I'm, like I mentioned before, I'm working on my Lesson Lounge, which is this badass online community that I already am delivering tons of free content to. They have access to me, all the other students, but I'm going to be hand delivering very, very detailed and personal lesson plans for people specifically. I'm going to be developing like pods, so to speak, to be teaching different people who have gotten into, I guess, different levels of playing. And my focus with that whole community is not to teach beginners, intermediate, or advanced. I'm not focusing on any of those. I'm focusing on the bridges between them. I'm focusing on how to get beginners to intermediate and intermediate to advanced, because I feel like that's the shit that's not looked at. That's the shit between the lines that no one's really focusing on. And that's my goal there, is to really find a way to build that bridge for people that's unique and personalized to them. And it's been fucking phenomenal so far, and I'm having such a blast doing it. So me and my team are developing a lot of shit with that. Sadly, the pandemic just destroyed a whole summer of shooting full-blown courses. But
sure did.
Sure did. You know the life. And sadly, I need like multi-camera people with like movable shit, so I can't do it myself like I used to. Like I used to shoot 3-angle guitar lesson things. Like it sucks, dude. I'm so ready to have people helping me with that. So that's some shit that I'm focusing on, which is going very, very well. Tab books are all available through that. I actually just signed with Sheet Happens. So my newest album, Inside Out Part 1, tab book is, I think, coming out September 1st. That album just came out on May 15th.
Nice.
I'm currently writing Inside Out Part 2. And we didn't really get to talk too much about this, but really quick background on that. I wrote this record, Inside Out Part 1, in the 6 months leading up to my mom passing away. Each of the songs was done in that month. And it was all with different collaborators. And then we used the funds that I raised on Patreon to donate to different charities. And then the goal was to just immediately turn around and release that. But my mom passed away, and I couldn't listen to that music for 3 years. So I've just been sitting on it for 3 years, and I just finally released it, which was like, dude, I feel like the best I've ever felt having gotten that out of my fucking system, man. So I'm now...
Sounds cathartic.
Oh, God. I feel like a different person. So that, I'm moving on to part 2. I might be relaunching that on Patreon. I'm not really sure yet. Other than that, dude, like the things I mentioned before, I got a podcast as well, which is focused very, very similar topic, but I think a little bit different than this. I feel like what we do here is just super, super heavy background, deep diving, and it's so cool to be able to hear that shit. The stuff that I wouldn't even want to like, I don't even want to talk about people's history, dude. Like, I feel like that's not even fair to enter your realm. So like, I want to talk about just how they did what they did, the ways that they got there, the mindset they had, kind of the stuff that we were talking about today, honestly.
I love that shit.
I might be wrong, but I feel like it's an undiscussed, underdeveloped area in music, like the philosophy side of things.
Definitely under-discussed.
So that's my focus. And again, like, my whole game is like, what's the problem? How can I solve it? If I was like, what's the problem with guitar lessons? And then I just hated it and I wasn't a teacher. But instead I'm like, all right, intermediate to advanced, beginner to intermediate. Like, I'm trying to find holes and fill things that other people aren't doing so that I don't have to step into a saturated market, because like, I'm not trying to compete like that. It's not worth anyone's time. So that's the game, is I'm kind of wanting to circle back, dude. I'm trying to canvas strategy my shit. I want to develop situations to where people kind of want to gather around and be close to whatever the fuck fire I have so that they could stay warm. I want to kind of forge a path for others to kind of walk down, you know what I mean? As lame as that sounds, dude, always coming back to me self-deprecating, but shit.
I'm looking forward to seeing how shit develops, man.
Dude, honestly, I have no idea. Very, very big ideas. This is my problem, is I tend to have these massive fucking ideas. And then once that part of my brain opens up, I get 12 other business ideas that have nothing to do with that.
Pro tip.
So then I'm just...
Focus on one.
Yep, and that's definitely my challenge. That's me right now, dude. I'm fucking leather-faced piece of shit on stage with Ice Nine, and then we are in the studio laughing and acting like idiots like no one will ever see. And then I am a business nerd.
Sounds great.
Yeah, dude, it's a life for sure.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
I'm trying, dude. I'm just trying to ale my shit up, you know?
No, don't do that. There's probably less painful ways to go about things.
I mean, you don't. I didn't talk about everything, man. You don't know.
True.
We'll get into it, I'm sure.
All right, man. It's been a pleasure.
Really appreciate you having me on here, dude, and giving me the space to be a fucking weirdo and talk about stuff I enjoy talking about. It's really fun, dude.
Anytime.
Okay, then. Another URM podcast episode in the bag. Please remember to share our episodes with your friends, as well as post them to your Facebook, Instagram, or any social media you use. Please tag me at EYAL Levy URM Audio, and of course, please tag my guests as well. Till next time, happy mixing.
You've been listening to the Unstoppable Recording Machine podcast. To ask us questions, make suggestions, and interact, visit urm.academy and press the podcast link today.